ставши на коліно, своє полкове знамено, дивлюсь на нього я востаннє, у нез'ясованій журбі, всю кров мою, всі скитання, воно вібрало у собі, всю кров
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались з кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у щах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар. Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Yes.
The Lviv Street Army sends its regards.
Hello everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, everybody. It's Enforcer Matt. Welcome back to day 294 of the news, and I hope you're all doing well.
And of course, we're going to be reporting on the past 48 hours of the war in Ukraine, and like we reported about a week and a half ago, about 2 weeks ago, it has become official. Now, senior members of the Department of Defense are now declaring that the Patriots have been in the process of being sent over to Ukraine, and right now they're finalizing those final processes, and here soon, we'll not only see Patriot missile defense systems inside of Ukraine, but we'll also see them in Poland as well. We're going to be going over that news here in a second, but real quick, before we do, I have to talk about Sunday night's fundraiser, because if we're talking about a blowout, that was a blowout. I have never seen a fundraiser recently in the past 2 months that got up to that size, and that one blew it out of the water. Real quick, because I actually messed up. Matthew may have heard me during the countdown. I was like, oh crap, I clicked on the wrong one.
Yes, I did.
I actually had the stream up from that night. Wait a minute, this is the wrong one. Let me go back. Let me click on the other one. I clicked on tonight's, so let me pause this one. All right, so here, and it's about to become a streamception, so you're about to see this one on the screen, and you're also watching a stream, so kind of a little weird, but let me throw this over here. This is the stream from Sunday. Just in case y'all didn't know, it also got age restricted. Yippee. But anyways, moving on down to show y'all the total. Y'all aren't going to believe this. It's honestly unbelievable to me, because and I'm not trying to build this up a lot, but it actually went up several more $1,000s that we didn't see on stream. Our final total for UNHCR is $17,747.00.
Dang.
Whopping! That is
And then you gotta double that because it was matched.
And it was. So real quick, actually, let me double that. We're not going to ever see the double here on YouTube, but the funds, when they do get sent to UNHCR, they are being doubled, if I believe I'm correct, by Airbnb, which is matching every dollar to dollar that was put in that Sunday. So let's see here. 17,747 times 2. In total, believe it or not, the Lee Spring Army managed to raise $35,494 when matched dollar for dollar for what we raised on Sunday. Absolutely.
Isn't that like the second largest fundraiser considering the doubling we've ever had?
I believe that would actually be the third largest. We had one that was $41,000, and then we had one that was $53,000 just about. So this one, with the matching involved, is about the third largest one ever. So congratulations to everyone who helped out that night, everyone who was watching that night in the Lee Spring Army, because only with y'all's support to this fundraiser was this fundraiser possible. And of course, we've got to thank all of our channel supporters as well, because while we don't mention it a lot, especially when talking about Sunday fundraisers, channel supporters who support this channel through super chats and help us to keep running are the reason why we've been able to keep covering this news for so long. And so while y'all don't get direct thanks for what happened on the Sunday fundraiser, I thank y'all so much for allowing this channel to keep on running so long without having to run ads on the stream, without really having to run ads anywhere on our channel except for to try and promote the normal videos. And y'all have made this all possible as well. And so I got to thank everyone who's both supported that fundraiser and has supported this stream for making it all possible and helping us to get to, I believe, the 39th fundraiser and the third largest one ever, which is unbelievable. But moving on from that, it's time to close out that screen, and it's now time for us to move on into today's news. And funnily enough, the irony of it is I actually didn't include the news clip talking about the Patriot missile systems being sent to Ukraine. So let me go get that real quick. Patriot missile news, not the Patriot news. 1 second, sorry everyone. Alright, so, of course you can see right here, like y'all saw in the video that I uploaded later today, everyone in the world has reported on this, and funnily enough, we reported on this about a week and a half ago. Of course, we don't have to go off of other people's news and them posting it for it to be true. On this channel, we just look at what makes sense. And about a week and a half ago, we already saw that this was in the process. So to explain what we said about a week and a half ago versus what happened today, let me guide y'all through what happened about a week and a half ago leading up to today. So a week and a half ago, we got news that the Germans were actually going to be sending their Patriot missile systems into Poland, and at the same time, it had been simmering in the background. It had been a bit of a rumor that the US was going to be sending Patriot missile systems to Poland instead of Germany. And so we had two countries sending Patriot missile defense systems into Poland. But then Poland refused Germany's offer for the Patriots and said that Ukraine needs them more. Instead of sending them to us, send them to Ukraine, which was a very selfless act on their end and very commendable all around. And I have to give a huge credit to the Polish government for making such a selfless decision in light of what's going on in Ukraine. So then that led to a tussle in between the Poles and the Germans. The Germans were practically trying to force free aid onto the Poles. And then the United States was kind of left with the fact that, well, if Germany is going to be giving their Patriots to Poland, then why are we giving Patriots to Poland? Because then we're just double dipping the chip in a way. And so we decided about a week and a half later, through a decent amount of backroom negotiations in between the Poles, the Germans, and the United States, that the U.S. Patriot defense systems, which, as far as we know, are either PAC-2 or PAC-3 missile systems, are going to be sent to Ukraine, and the Germans are going to be sending their Patriot systems that they were originally going to be giving to Poland. So, and also, Uncle Grandpa just clarified, the PAC-2s are going to Ukraine, and if y'all saw the video I put up earlier, the PAC-2s are incredibly solid. The PAC-3 is even better, but, you know, they're really both of them do the same job and almost have a perfect look-down, kind of like shoot-down rate, although that's the wrong term. But moving on from that, this is something that I thought was fairly interesting to cover, because, of course, one thing I have to note, because it kind of irks me a little bit, is that we reported on this a week and a half ago, and we actually got a little bit of heat from some viewers and even some other channels that we were misreporting this news, and that Patriots, according to another channel, were not going to be sent to Ukraine and were never on the table, although we saw that this was happening for about a week and a half ago up till today. So now it's official. They're actually being sent to Ukraine, and this means a lot, moving on from that, for Ukraine's defense. Currently, they have around 2 to 4 NASAMS. They may even have more that we do not know of at the moment, but they have around 2 to 4 NASAMS, which are much shorter range missile defense systems, but largely serve the same purpose as the Patriot. The Patriot is the longer range and heavier hitting missile defense system of the two, and based off of our experience, historically, with PAC-2 and PAC-3 Patriot missile defense systems in other theaters, it seems as though the PAC-2s and the PAC-3s nearly have a 98 to 100% shoot-down rate, meaning every single time a missile is launched from a PAC-2 or a PAC-3, it almost always shoots down its target, except for one small occasion here and there. In fact, the Patriot missile defense systems are so good that in the invasion of Iraq, it shot down a Tornado, a British fighter aircraft, and an F-18 Hornet, an American naval aircraft, and ended up, unfortunately, killing all the pilots that were hit by these Patriot systems. One thing is clear, though, that while, of course, like I covered this earlier in the video, that was an unfortunate occurrence, one thing that it did show is that even against incredibly modern, the most modern aircraft in the world at that time, Western aircraft, the Patriot was such an effective system that it could still shoot them down with incredible ease, which is somewhat actually scary to think about, that it can even take down Western aircraft without even batting an eye. But moving on from that, the one thing we can get from that is that not only can it counter Russian aircraft incredibly well, because the Israeli ones in service with Israel have actually managed to shoot down several Syrian Su-24s, which the Russians are also using. We also know that it can shoot down cruise missiles. Cruise missiles, believe it or not, are as not fast traveling as modern aircraft. Most modern fighter aircraft and aircraft in the military travel close to supersonic speeds, around the speeds of Mach 0.8 to Mach 0.9, somewhere in that range. A cruise missile actually travels a little bit slower at around Mach 0.65 or Mach 0.7. And so they're actually a decent bit slower, and unlike an aircraft, which will pop, chaff, and flares and try and crank to, I guess you could say, make the missile lose its energy and therefore not be able to hit the plane, a cruise missile and a ballistic missile does not do that. They fly in a linear line straight to their target at a literal steady rate of speed until they get there, and then they dive down and hit the target. And so we know that the Patriot, if it's able to take on aircraft that can actually evade and has countermeasures and shoot any of them down that it engages, we know that it can also intercept the cruise missiles and ballistic missiles with a 100% success rate and shoot them down. The only problem, however, is that these missiles, the Patriot missiles, cost a decent amount. From what we can tell, a Patriot missile, a single Patriot missile can cost anywhere in between about $1.5 million to $3 million. We've never really gotten an accurate assessment, I guess you could say, of the cost. We've been looking around for one before this stream, but the best I could find is anywhere in between 1.5 to 3 million for somewhere around a pack 2, and then a pack 3 could cost anywhere in between 4 to 6 million. We know they're not getting those, so it's somewhere a little bit lower in price. And so we know that they're going to be doing fairly well. Will the Ukrainians be using these a lot? Probably not, because they're very cost inefficient, especially if something I saw today comes to light. Many of y'all may also watch, and I know this is a little bit of a long exposition on the Patriot, but this is something interesting I heard today from a big channel I watch, and was actually something he backed up with evidence. It's been stated and shown that the Russians are starting to pull out AN-2s, Antonov 2s, out of storage, and they're starting to bring them to airfields around Ukraine, supposedly to use in combat. This is insane.
You gotta be kidding.
No, I'm not kidding. This is insane, because if y'all don't know anything about the AN-2, here is the fear-inducing Antonov 2. It's a biplane made in 1947, but he actually brought up something that was actually incredibly scary, and he brought up historical precedent that if anyone watched the Nagorno-Karabakh war that occurred in between Armenia and Azerbaijan, you would know it to be true. And let me move down here real quick to explain this. There is a massive amount of hatred in between the Armenians and the Azerbaijanis over an area in Armenia called Nagorno-Karabakh, which has a massive, I guess you could say, enclave of Azerbaijani people. Well, actually, I'm sorry, correction. I believe it's the other way around. I believe in Nagorno-Karabakh is in Azerbaijan, and it's full of Armenians. Regardless, they hate each other for cultural reasons, and they went to war. The Azerbaijanis, during that war, turned these Antonov 2s into drones, and they equipped them with pretty much a simple radio control, so that way they could fly it like a big RC plane. They flew it into Armenia, and the Armenians, picking this thing up and thinking it was a drone filled with explosives, which they were, shot them down and used almost all of their surface-to-air missile defense systems, in fact, all of the available ammunition they had, to shoot these down. And by that time, the Azerbaijani Air Force and their actual drone forces came in, and by that point, the Armenians had nothing to defend themselves with. And that's actually something very bizarre. For one moment here, right here at this very second, it looks like Russia's technological handicap, if they have the ability to convert these into drones, may actually end up being to their benefit for once. And so, if, for example, this thing starts flying into Ukrainian airspace, and the Ukrainians use nearly a $3 million PAC-2 Patriot missile to shoot it down, they're losing a massive, exorbitant cost in a missile to shoot down a plane that was made in 1947. So, somewhat interesting to think about. I thought that was great food for thought, and I had to share that. In case of y'all are wondering what channel I'm talking about, it's Mark Felton Productions. He's a massive channel. He's got like 3.5 million subscribers, and he covers incredibly interesting content. Great channel all around. If you haven't heard of him, make sure to go subscribe to him. You'll probably love the stories that he shares too. But this was one of the ones that was it had a lot of assumptions in it, but it does have a lot of historical precedent. We work off of that as well, and I thought that was something definitely worth mentioning and noting. And so, we're now going to be moving on from that little bit of news and about the Patriot surface-to-air missile defense systems altogether, and moving on into Russia, because the Russians have been having a very tough time, of course, as you all know, but one thing they always like to think, or make you think, or make the Russians think, or make everyone think, for that matter, is that the Ukrainians that are in occupied territory, as well as them, are friends. And this time of year, it's Christmas. And of course, the Russians celebrate Christmas in their own way, like many other countries do. And so they're putting up little things of peace and love to mankind in the middle of a war where they're daily committing crimes against civilians by the dozens, if not the hundreds. But they put up a little heart. It fixed everything. It stopped the entire war. They put up a heart, two of them actually, interlinked in between each other. And one of them says St. Petersburg, and the other one says Mariupol. If that's not the biggest slap in the face to the people of Mariupol, who continue to suffer under Russian rule right now, I don't know what is. In the middle of St. Petersburg, covered in snow, freezing cold, and people living in their heated apartments that are not blown out, there are people in Mariupol, in the exact same weather conditions nearly, in the exact same cold, with no heating, no electricity, no gas, nothing, freezing to death, windows blown out so they can't even stop the wind from coming into their apartments, and they may be even living out in the streets right now because their apartment building was destroyed, or burned out. But the Russians want you to think that they're perfectly fine, and St. Petersburg and Mariupol are friends like old times, which is honestly just sick to think that they would put up symbolism like that, knowing what's really going on in Mariupol. Speaking of which, what's going on in Mariupol has affected the Russians so bad, and they know it's so bad, especially what happened to the Mariupol Children's Theater, that on day 293, we actually saw from drone footage, we don't even know who took it, that they've actually put up a privacy screen. In the middle of a destroyed city, 90% of the buildings have been completely destroyed. They put up a privacy screen around the Mariupol Theater. You know, the building where hundreds of women and children were killed by a Russian missile attack. And they've decided now that they're going to put up this massive privacy screen that is in the exact same shape and actually has a little outline of the old theater on it, so that way even the people in the war-torn and destroyed city of Mariupol, these people have seen atrocities like no other. And the Russians know that this one is so bad that even for these people, they have to put up a privacy screen around the worst war crime that they ever committed in the city, so that way normal people can't see it. Is that unbelievable or what? And that shows you how bad this really is.
Yeah, they must have forgot that they have drones because it's not covering the top.
Yeah, it's not covering the top, and you can still see the building where many people met their unfortunate doom. And it's just unbelievable, because look, you can see over there, Matthew, buildings with windows blown out. Most of these buildings look like they're unlivable. Yet at the same time, people are living in those kinds of conditions, and this is still so bad to whoever is the military governor of Mariupol right now, that they actually put up a screen around the thing so that way people couldn't see it and remember what happened.
Yeah, it says a lot.
It says way too much, really, and it's just sad to think about what happened there. It was a long time ago, but many people in Mariupol still have to live with the torment and the horror of thinking that many of their family members may still be under that rubble and have never been dug out. But hey, they put a privacy screen around it, so I guess that does the job. Anyways, we're going to be moving on back out of Mariupol and from that little sick sign in St. Petersburg, especially considering how bad the Russians know they really did in Mariupol. And we're now going to be moving to Saratov, because while Saratov was also hit by cruise missiles that took out 2 Tu-95s, we can see that the Russians here know that they're being watched by satellites, funnily enough. The Russians know how technologically backwards they are. And so as one of the American satellites orbited back over Russia and took its normal slew of pictures to see what was going on, the Russians left a nice message for us to read. Right there on the runway. You can actually see it right behind a Tu-95. The only one left at the airfield, mind. You see that all of the other gates are completely empty. It's the only one there now. And this says, "Death to Nazis." You can actually see right there, it says Nazitam, which means something like Nazism. And they put that right there for an American satellite to pick up. Little do they know that we're not the Nazis, it's actually them. And they've brainwashed themselves into thinking that for some reason, this is going to give someone an actual introspection into themselves, instead of just a good laugh, because the Russians are still down there, living off of potatoes, probably old vodka, and then writing stuff with what appears to be used socks on the tarmac. So with that, we're now going to be moving on from Saratov, which is also a pretty funny one, and we're now going to be moving into Tula. Because if you haven't had enough fun tonight just listening to my exposition, maybe a Russian that zooted out of his mind will give you all a good laugh. So with that, here's the video. I'm kidding.
No.
And this guy just walks past him. He's like, oh, a tweaker. Oh my god. Look at this man. He is.
I don't even think I could stand like that, even if I was like completely coherent.
You know, this must be Russia's super soldier program, because I've never seen anyone hit a limbo like that. I mean, this man is actually going to go under the limbo sticker. Someone said he's AFK.
He's got a good spine, at least.
Like, his eyes are closed. This man is having an extraterrestrial experience of another kind right here. He's in another galaxy or something similar. I can't believe that Russian soldiers just wander around, and they're of such poor quality, and there's such low discipline in the Russian armed forces, that this guy can stand in the middle of an apartment building, full uniform, like this. It's just crazy to me. I can't believe it. But let's watch that one more time. I was gonna clean my room until I got high.
Look, I'm laying odds he goes over the banister in like 5 minutes.
I'm laying odds that he has already become a casualty of war before he even got to the war. With that, we're now moving on from that little clip. I hope y'all enjoyed that one. I hope that lightened up y'all's day a little bit. And we're now going to be moving on down into Bryansk, because now we're getting into serious business. Another drone hit Bryansk. We have no idea what kind of drone it was. It doesn't appear to have been a Tu-144 from the explosive size and also the crater that was left over. But here's a video of, I'm assuming, a Russian civilian that's made it onto a base in the Bryansk area, and you can see the crater that this bomb, drone, whatever it was, left behind. Abandoned. What the hell is that? An MTLB, I guess? I don't know. And there's the crater.
Ooh,
That is big.
dang.
It even flipped over an armored vehicle. We don't even know what kind that is.
And what caused it again?
We have no idea. I'm assuming it was something similar to a Tu-141, but I've never seen any of them make a crater that size. Like, that's huge. Like, that thing is probably 60 feet deep and maybe 250 feet wide. I don't even know what could
Jeez.
make that kind of explosion. And also a
Small
strong
nuke.
Yeah, maybe it was also small enough to flip. Well, it was also big enough to flip over this tank, and that thing probably weighed 12 tons, and it literally picked it up and flipped it upside down. So I have no idea how big this explosive was, what got it there. I'm assuming that the only thing that could have really traveled that distance is something similar to a drone, or maybe, I mean, like, that's really it, a drone, or maybe even a ballistic missile like a Grom or a Hrym, but I don't know if Groms or Hryms can make holes of this size. It's massive. I mean, I can't even account for how big this is. We don't know what kind of damage it caused either. It appears that it may have fallen into a motor pool, so there may have been multiple vehicles that were destroyed that we can't tell because they were vaporized in the explosion. But that is certainly some damage, and once again showing that the Ukrainians now have something of a semi-permanent ability at this point in the war to be able to strike into Russia at any military target they want. The Russians are more defenseless than the Ukrainians in attempting to shoot these things down. And now we're moving on to some news that I'm already going to tell y'all while we're showing it, because I thought it was something to show and newsworthy, to always discredit these kinds of videos with a grain of salt. Because, of course, it's been a month now, and every month that goes by, the Russians and the Belarusians have to go through their usual drumming up the fears that Belarus is going to be joining the war. And in this video, we're going to see some Belarusian military personnel saying that there was a sudden check of combat readiness in the Belarusian military. I'm already going to discredit this as nothing's going to happen because it hasn't happened over 10 months, and they've done this about 10 times each month. So with that, here's the video.
Сегодня в соответствии с распоряжением главы государства подвергается проверке ряд воинских частей, соединений воинских частей.
Boy, I like the hair implants right there. Where do you get that from? Bosnia, like Bosnia or whatever it is.
Bosley?
Yeah, Bosnia. It's a hair
Bosnia.
company from Bosnia.
Вооруженных сил. Проверка носит широкомасштабный характер, проводится внезапно для руководства вооруженных сил.
This man seems he believes it.
Подвергнуты проверке воинские части, входящие в комплект сил немедленного реагирования, то есть те воинские части, которые...
Wait a minute, they have winter camo? That must be because the Belarusians aren't in war, because once they hit a war, they would lose the camo. Is that even
That
camo?
one dude is wearing pajamas.
Yeah,
is
this
that
man's
pajamas
wearing
he's
pajamas.
wearing? It's polka dot.
The rest of this kind of looks like Ukrainian camo, but this right here, like, hang
Or
on,
a Halloween cow costume.
I gotta find it. Louis the 15th. Wait, Louis the 15th portrait. If I can find it, it's gonna hit right on the nail. This man is literally wearing like what French royalty wears. You see that little like black stuff on the the cape that he's wearing right there?
Yes.
Maybe this one's even better right here. They just turned it inside out. That's what he's wearing, and he's wearing it right there.
Те воинские части,
What kind of
которые в
camo
первую
is
очередь
that?
будут решать
Where's
задачи
Duncan VR?
в соответствии с
Moo.
предназначением
Moo.
вообще,
Baba. Moo.
обострения обстановки как на границах Республики Беларусь, так и внутри
Oh, I like
страны.
that
То есть
division symbol. I will give him credit for that. I think that's supposed to be like a European bison. That is a pretty cool little division symbol. If they ever went to war, though, that would be like the funniest division symbol ever because they'd be the opposite of a bison. They would be something like, I don't know, Well, I can't even say that on stream. That would actually get us age restricted. But anyways.
Беларусь, так и внутри страны. То есть, простым языком говоря, части постоянной готовности.
Boy? Boy? I thought we just saw one boy. This is the whole entire unit of child soldiers. This looks like something straight out of Uganda.
They look like they might be like 14 or 15 years old. The one right there in the cow costume.
These are JROTC cadets, and you better watch out, Matthew. You're insulting a future army soldier.
Oh, no.
Отработан широкий спектр задач. Это совершение марша на большие расстояния, на незнакомые участки местности, на которых будут выполняться задачи по взятию под охрану различных объектов, занятие огневых рубежей, выполнение огневых задач, тактических задач. То есть задачи будут поставлены, исходя из анализа опыта проведения специальной военной операции на Украине. Сегодня поднято с 8 часов приводится в готовность одна из частей, находящаяся на южном операционном направлении.
What kind of BTRs are those? They didn't even have turrets. That's like the BTR base model. That's what you get from like the factory when you don't get any of the additional modifications. Like no air conditioner, no radio, no Bluetooth, no turret. It's literally just a BTR without a turret. It doesn't even have a machine gun. All of them are like that.
Находящаяся на южном операционном направлении, ей поставлена задача по выходу и прикрытию.
Wait, that one did have a turret. That one does too.
Объекта на южной границе.
But the first one did. Maybe that was the command BTR.
Наращиваться. Вот. Будут проверены все, практически все оперативные командования, соединения воинских частей всех оперативных командований. По итогам проверки будет сделан глубокий анализ, и итоги проверки будут доложены главе государства.
And with that, that's the end of the video. But there you go again. We're going through the typical fear-mongering. Here comes the typical, oh, Belarus might be going to war. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe so. We'll just have to wait and see for the next few weeks until we bring up the fear-mongering again in a month. Because Belarus is always just about to join this war until they actually have to. And then it's about another 2 months away or so. Or at least until the next fear cycle comes around. And here it comes again. Honestly, I feel as though that nobody in media like me, rather than to make fun of it, or anyone else should report on this stuff as seriously and make it like the crux of a night's worth of news. Because every time this happens, and a lot of y'all are channel veterans. A lot of y'all have been around long enough to see this. Every single time this comes up, I always say, it's nothing but fear factor. They'll disappear in the next few days, and they'll come up again in a month. And 10 times in a row, for 10 months, they've done this, and they're doing it again. There's no point even looking at this rather than a joke, which is what Belarus is and what Lukashenko is, because it's never going to amount to anything. Like this here, it's not going to amount to anything. Watch another 2 weeks go by, nothing will have happened, and then 2 weeks after the next 2 weeks, you'll see that this fear-mongering comes around again in January. And so with that, we're now moving on from that little bit of news that we put in Gomel, but we're not really sure where it was. And we're now moving, well, it wasn't Belarus, obviously, but we don't know where it was beyond that. And we're now going to be moving down to Kyiv, because we actually saw that a lot of people have plans for when victory comes around in Ukraine. A lot of people in Ukraine are been determined that victory will come soon, and they're fairly right. There's no way that they can't have a victory over the Russians at this point, no matter how many times the bots say otherwise. They just can't change reality, and a lot of them now have those little, like, squishy ball character things where their eyes pop out when you squish them, because they're having to, like, relieve the stress of knowing that they're constantly losing every day. So here's the video of what some Kyiv residents said they will do when the victory comes around. And also, sadly, I'm going to have to mute this and read it off to y'all because it has copyrighted music playing so loud you can hardly hear the people, and also there's subtitles. So with that, this lady says, I'll probably cry. Well, if this is about emotion, then I'll rejoice and celebrate it. After our victory, I will go on tour to Ukraine. I want to visit as many cities as possible. I'll celebrate it nicely. Hey, we all know what this guy means. He's going to drink. He's like, I will celebrate it nicely. Moving on to the next one. I'll gather all my family and we'll celebrate. We'll go home, where, if it's not a secret, to Zaporizhia and then to Crimea to the sea. We'll celebrate with children and grandchildren. I'll drink. What else can I do? Of course I'll get drunk. Maybe you'd like to go somewhere. I'll go to my family in Okturka. I don't know. I'll probably celebrate for a week or a month. We'll celebrate. I'll see all my relatives. I will hug my relatives and loved ones. After our victory, I'll congratulate all the relatives and the loved ones who survived. Well, dang, that was kind of a little, like, brutal. It's very hard to answer because so much has already been thought about what I wanted to do. This is a period when you just want to wait for victory. And with that, that's the end of the video, but it looks like hopes are high in Kyiv, and a lot of people think that the war will be won eventually, and they're already making plans for the victory. And I can't wait to see it too. I can't wait when Ukraine wins, because one, you'll see, and we'll go over this in a second, I'll skip that part for now, but we'll be celebrating too on this channel, and the war will have finally come to an end. It's been going on for quite a long while now. We're only 6 days away from day 300, and it feels like just yesterday we were celebrating Ukraine surviving 100 days of war. Now we're going to be celebrating Ukraine surviving 300 whole days of war. 100 times longer than they were expected to survive. And so I'm really looking forward to celebrating as well. And I think, to let y'all know what we'll do on this channel, we will probably continue to cover some of the follow-up stuff that would be happening in Ukraine after this war, but we'll probably be having a very special stream that night to celebrate everything that had happened so far up in that point to the victory. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from Kyiv and on into our location unknowns, because we actually have some really interesting ones here. Stick around for them. Oh crap, that one actually didn't save. We're going to have to skip to the next one because we saw some Russians being taken away in our first location unknown news clip. But before we get to that, it seems that a lot of y'all haven't heard about something. Haven't heard about a really big deal, actually, that Matthew's asked about, and it looks like the votes are still coming in. So before we answer that poll, we're going to go to the one before it, and we're going to see what all of y'all thought on that one as well, because a lot of y'all have been voting, and I want to hear what y'all are thinking. So with that, what do we got, Matthew?
Okay, so on the first poll that we ran, the question was, how do you think Russia will respond to the USA giving Ukraine Patriot missiles? Because I believe before Putin said that that was the red line, right?
I don't know. I think it was more just on aircraft alone, but I think he did say that at one point about the Patriots as well.
All right, so the results of this poll were 32% said the response will be non-existent, 39% said response will be weak, 14% said not sure, and 14% said the response will be severe. So overall, it looks like most of you think it'll be either weak or the response will be non-existent. And I would have to tend to agree with that. So far, Putin hasn't backed up anything he's ever said, and he's only done anything but losing. So, Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I don't really think Russia's going to do anything about it. It seems as though there isn't even a diplomatic protest right now to what we're doing and giving Ukraine Patriots. So I don't think they're going to do anything, honestly. I think they've just completely given up on that battle of trying to keep Patriots out of Ukraine. And they're like, oh, well, we'll just forget that one. But you still can't send fighter jets. And then we'll probably send fighter jets in the future. And then they'll cry a little bit more and then they'll deal with it. So I feel like they're honestly going to do nothing about the Patriots. And honestly, I would love to say for sure, Matthew, whether they actually did draw a red line or not about the Patriots, but they've drawn a red line over so many things that we have blatantly ignored and sent anyways, and they've done nothing about it. I can't even remember anymore whether there was a red line on that one as well. So as far as I know, maybe, but I'm not really sure because they've said that so many times. So with that, I hope we answered that question, that poll fairly well. That was actually a really interesting poll. Good job on that, Matthew. And with that, let's get on to the next one. And also, Matthew, real quick, could you clarify that poll? Because I've seen a lot of people in the live chat asking what it means, and I was also wondering what it means.
So this most recent poll you're asking about?
Yes, could you give us a little bit of exposition about what the question is about?
So yes, about 6 hours ago, according to CNBC, the Justice Department in the United States charged 7 people with smuggling military tech to benefit Russia. So in other words, they were giving away our military secrets, which is obviously not good, but they have been charged, and I don't know if they're in custody yet or not. Let's see here. 3 of the 7 are in custody, and they're looking for the rest. So I'm sure they'll be caught before they can leave the country, or they'll be caught at the airport trying to get out. So interesting. I wonder if they were American citizens or not. We don't have that information, or at least I don't right here at the moment, but we'll need to find that out.
Real quick,
but it looks
could you actually give me some more information on that so that we could pull that up? Because I don't think I heard about that today when putting together the news.
If you just punch in U.S. charges 7 with smuggling tech to Russia, it should pull up the article.
U.S. charges 7 with smuggling tech. 7 charged with international smuggling for Russia. Let's see what was involved here. 7 people, including an Eastern European immigrant living in New Hampshire, have been charged with being part of an international smuggling ring that procured sensitive technology for Russia. The charges, unsealed in the Eastern District of New York, revealed the ring operated since at least 2017 and unlawfully purchased and shipped to Russia millions of dollars in sensitive military technology from vendors in Brooklyn and elsewhere. How the hell do you buy sensitive military equipment from a vendor? According to the
On the
indictment...
black market.
Sheesh, that's really hard to get stuff on the black market in the United States. I would, honestly, I'd be interested in how the hell that really works. But will they tell us what type of sensitive equipment was sent?
Oh, also, real quick, it looks like it included a suspected officer of Russia's intelligence service and also 2 Americans, but that's the only ones we know their identity thus far.
Interesting. So it appears that one of them actually was arrested in Estonia, and now he's going to be extradited to the United States. Interesting. I really wish, though, that we had some more information on what kind of sensitive equipment was sent, because I don't really know what kind would have been. So let's go to VOA News. Let's see if they give a little bit more detail. Let's see here. Officer of the FSB was detained by Estonian authorities last week. Let's see here. It doesn't seem as though this article is really going into information either. Let's see, according to the indictment. Let's see. Okay, so the FSB officer arrested in Estonia allegedly shipped or physically smuggled U.S. origin dual-use electronics, military-grade ammunition, which really is just normal ammunition, and other export-controlled items from the Baltic nation to Russia. So really, what this seems like is that they were involved in high-volume ammunition smuggling in between the U.S. to Russia. I have no idea why, because we do not produce 545 by 39 in America. We produce 762 by, well, I don't even think we produce 762 by 39. I think all of that we actually imported from Russia, and then we stopped that. So I wonder what kind of ammunition they were exporting, because that's probably where a bulk of the cost in smuggling was in the ammunition. Interesting.
It says, if convicted of bank fraud or bank fraud conspiracy.
And where do you see
what
that?
exactly they charged with again? It's down there on the last part of your page right there. What was the charges, did it say?
Let's see. The defendants face charges of conspiracy to defraud the United States regarding the enforcement of export controls and economic sanctions, conspiracy to violate the Export Control Reform Act, smuggling, and failure to comply with the automated export system relating to the transportation of electronics. If convicted of bank fraud or fraud conspiracy, the defendants face a maximum, but wait a minute.
You know what this kind of sounds like? It kind of sounds like the U.S. wanted to get these 5 individuals off the street, and they kind of found a reason, because it doesn't really seem as serious as I thought it was going to be.
It kind of doesn't, and also right here it says, including tactical rounds, and just in case if any of y'all don't know, there's really no difference for the large part in between most U.S. military ammunition and ammunition you can buy at a store. 5.56, if you buy that at a gun store, and 5.56 that's issued to soldiers in the military, is largely the same. You know, give or take, there might be a different grain load inside of the cartridge, all kinds of stuff like that. Beyond that, it's largely the same, and it also looks like 338 rounds. That's it.
A Kev C in the live chat said we could use these guys to get Wheeling back. Maybe that's what the United States is doing. We're doing kind of a tit for tat thing here. We're going to apprehend these 5 individuals and then use them to try to negotiate Wheeling's release.
That right there is
Kev, that is brilliant.
That was genius, Kev. That may actually be what they're doing right here. Is that they said, "Oh, look, everyone's complaining we didn't get the Marine back. Quick, swipe up 5 people we know largely work for the Russians that are involved in low-level stuff we've known about for years, and now we'll exchange them for the Marine. We'll give 5 of these guys for the Marine because they're practically useless." That is actually pretty smart right there, and if that is the case, we may actually be seeing the United States playing some 4-dimensional chess. And if Victor Bout, and this is something I'm fairly adamant in thinking will be true. If we see that Victor Bout somehow slips in a bathroom floor and hits his head on a sink and dies, I think we'll have just seen the United States play four-dimensional chess in terms of exchanging people to receive people and so on. So very interesting. So moving on from that, now that we have all of that information out of the way, and we've gotten loads of votes on this poll, it's now up to 1,410. Let's hear the results and also the prompt.
All right. So the question was, did you hear that the U.S. charges 7 with smuggling secret military tech to benefit Russia? 74% did not hear about it. 21% said, yes, I heard. And 5% said, not sure. So by now, it should be 100% that said, yes, I heard, because we just talked about it. So the poll's kind of moot at this point. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that I had actually heard that. I had to pull that up and look at it. But that is actually pretty interesting. I gotta say, Mandy, that was a very good thing to add to the news tonight. Hadn't heard about it, but that was incredible to hear. If we are doing that for the sole reason of exchanging them for the Marine, I think that's great. Number one, we already got one of the Americans held in prison back. Honestly, I gotta be honest with y'all, I don't think there's only 2 Americans being held in prison in Russia. That seems like somewhat of a low number. I'm sure it's probably up towards about 100 or more, just going off of what I think would be probably a reasonable assumption. I would have to get more data to back that up, though, because that's not a true statement. That's just a large shot in the dark right there. But considering that we're going to be getting 2 of the higher profile Americans back, although still trading Victor Bout just on the surface and allowing him to just roam free doesn't really seem like a good idea. But if that's involved in the caveat of he opens up a present on Christmas and it pulls the pin on a grenade inside the present and it explodes, and also getting these 5 guys to trade back with a Marine, we may actually end up on top of this whole thing. And for the short while, for the small amount of time that it doesn't look like a good trade, it won't. But in the long run, it'll actually be a pretty good one if all of these things come to pass. But we can only wait and see. And of course, we don't work on hardcore. Well, we don't work on assumptions and treat them as hardcore facts. So while I'm hoping that the whole deal that I'm seeing with Victor Bout will be the case, not really sure. And we can't really say that definitively until time passes and we see that it comes true. And so with that, I hope that addresses the poll fairly well, and that was probably one of the more interesting polls we've had in a while, Matthew. So with that, let's move on to the next one if we have one, and if not, what do we have from there?
All right, so from there, we have our questions, specifically our super chats. And up first, we have a $20 donation from Panama Floyd, a channel regular, who says, Enforcer, day 90, or whatever, of a quote-unquote 3-day war.
I would say it is actually pretty interesting, Panama Floyd, that you brought that up. It is day 294. And like I said, it's only 6 days away from being day 300. So that means that Ukraine will have lasted 100 times the length that Russia originally thought they would live. And they're still going pretty strongly, actually. We will get to the frontline analysis here in a second. You will see that the Russians have gained a small amount of ground outside of Bakhmut. But of course, that's happened before. That happened in Kherson right before their collapse. That also happened in the area around, let me make sure that Kramatorsk and Slovyansk right before the breakthrough north of Balaklia, and then the Ukrainians pushing them back over an area the size of, I believe, Connecticut and Rhode Island put together. And so I would have to say it is pretty nice to know that we're still here covering the news 294 days in, and it's good to know that Ukraine has also survived 294 days in, because there could have been an alternate reality where they fell in 3 days. Zelensky fled the country on the 2nd day. There was no government to really guide Ukraine. The military started to collapse. Everyone started trying to flee the country into NATO, and the Russians just flooded the whole thing. Yet we didn't see that happen, and we're still here, and Ukraine is still here, and we're still covering the news. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Panama Floyd, and helping this channel to keep on running. Of course, we rely on y'all's support to keep this channel running, and without y'all, this wouldn't be possible. I say that a whole load, but I mean it 100%. Y'all have made this possible the entire time, and if it wasn't for y'all's support and helping us to keep this thing alive, helping the blood to keep pumping and flowing through it, for us to keep the lights on, for us to focus on everything in the background, we wouldn't have been able to do this. And so thank you so much once again for the support, and with that, we are on to the next one. But everyone give a huge shout out to Panama Floyd for being a Lee Spring Army legend. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Charles Holden, who puts in a $20 donation and says, what has happened to the Bayraktar drones?
And I thank you so much for the support. This is a question that we get every once in a while. I think the last time we got this was about a month ago. The Bayraktars have not been shot down, and they've also largely been in use. I mean, from what we can tell, they're still being used today, right now at this very moment. It's just that we don't get a lot of video footage anymore of them because the Ukrainians have now, I guess you could say, classified them as state secrets. And so their activities aren't really broadcast anymore. They're not televised a lot. They're not put out on videos. So we don't really get to see what the Bayraktars are doing anymore. But they are still out there in a pretty decent number, and they're still inflicting a decent amount of casualties as well. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does answer the question fairly well. But beyond that, sadly, I do have to say this to back that up a little bit more. We don't get any video or picture evidence to back that up, but we do see every once in a while the Ukrainians will release like a bulk set of clips, all put together over the course of several months from the last time we saw the Bayraktars in action, and we'll see new activity, so we know that they're constantly in use. It's just that we don't get a lot of information on them. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does answer the question fairly well. And we are on to the last one of this segment, and then we'll be moving on into the location unknowns.
All right. And the last one of this segment goes to James Lynn, who puts in a $50 donation and says, think about it. Trading for Boot is fine. Boot has been out of the arms trade for over 13 plus years. He is known around the world by Interpol. He won't be able to do any business outside of the Russian sphere. And he's been debriefed by U.S. Intel. He's done.
And I thank you so much for the support, James Lynn. And I would say that really letting him go isn't that bad of a deal, especially considering that we already know that he's guilty of arms dealing. And, you know, in reality, if the guy becomes too much of a problem, the United States can always just fly a drone to wherever he is and drop a large bomb on him and take him out that way, and then double tap him and make sure they did the job right. So it's not really that big of a deal to me. You know, of course, it's still a little bit worrisome to think that a guy literally called the Merchant of Death is traveling around the world now and could be anywhere. But you are right. He can't really do a lot of arms dealing in the places he used to. There is now a heavy U.S. presence in most places, except, however, I will give an exception, except for the Middle East and except for really Africa as a whole. Generally, you could travel around there and you could deal weapons almost all day and all night, and there's really no way to know or to get to them because there's about 1,000 warlords in operation in Africa fighting the governments that are actually in charge of these countries, and it just is constantly going on. So while they could probably get away with arms dealing there, that's nothing really new. That's pretty much been going on ever since African countries became independent back in the 40s and 50s and on up till the present day. So that won't be anything that will be destabilizing the world further. It'll just be continuing the chaos. But once again, if the guy gets a little too out of line and we see things that we don't like too much, you can always just drop a bomb on the guy and he's gone. And then the Russians complain a little bit and then they get on with it. So, you know, in my opinion, James Lynn, it doesn't really mean that much to me for the reason that back in the day, if I'm correct, Matthew, when was Victor Bout arrested, if you know?
I don't recall, to be totally honest.
Let's see. Let's pull that up. When was Victor Bout arrested? Is it Boot or Bout?
I think it's Boot, or at least all the people on the news channels say Boot, but, you know, they're wrong about some things, so take that with a grain of salt.
I feel like it's Bout because it's not really spelled like boot, but I'm not really sure. Anyways, he was arrested in 2008. And remember, by that time, drones were just entering kind of like the reconnaissance area alone, and it was hypothesized that eventually in the future, they may have weapons equipped onto them. I'm not really sure about that timetable, but I believe it was just a few years afterwards, drones would finally start to be weaponized, and then we would see them being used heavily in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. But at the time we arrested this guy, and during his whole entire life in operation, there was never a drone to just chase the guy down and blow him away. And if anything we've seen in the past few years, the United States now really has no apprehension with flying a drone anywhere in the world, regardless whether it's something that the government in charge of that country agreed with or not, and just blowing people away. We did that with Soleimani, literally right outside of the Baghdad airport. And so that kind of lays a precedent, at least at that moment, that if this guy got out of line, he got a little too crazy, and we considered him a threat, here comes the Predator or the Reaper, and there goes the Hellfire right down into the car. So with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, addresses the comment fairly well, James Lynn. And I would have to agree with you. it's not that much of a big deal as it's being made out to be because of that reason. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does answer the question fairly well, and thank you to everyone who's helping this channel to keep on running, because you guys really do help us to stay alive. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into the location unknown news, where we saw some Russians getting taken away by a drone. And I think you all know what kind of taken away this is. This isn't being scooped up in the back of an unmarked van. This is being taken away by a drone bomblet. And we see two guys down there. It appears that they're having a small tussle. A little fist fight. Kind of interesting, really. And now the fist fight's been ended by the Ukrainians. They said, hey, knock it off, guys. And they did. They knocked their heads off. It appears that... Wait a minute, are they still fighting? Are they still alive and fighting, even after a drone bomblet fell on them? Nope, this guy's gotten out. It looks like the fight has stopped. He's now going to take a lie down. And this guy is also crawling as well. It looks like they're trying to learn how to walk. With that, that's the end of the video, but you can see that a Russian fight was broken up by the Ukrainians, and they made sure to whisk them away to a land of 1,000 Zelenskys, a land of never-ending torture for the Russians. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into the next location unknown news, where we saw Peppa Mig. Y'all may have saw Peppa Pig last week, but no, it's changed to Peppa Mig. Here's the video. It's the same pilot from last week, but now he's actually been dubbed Peppa Mig. I thought that was actually really creative. When you see him taxiing in this MiG-29, taking off. Now he's flying around. We can see that it's the aerobatic liveried MiG-29 that was brought out of air show service for the war. We now see him firing a missile. Firing another missile. He's now taking a little hard turn. He's now firing more missiles. And now we see him landing at nighttime. And with that, that's the end of the video. And we can see that it was shot on GoPro. In case of you haven't heard of GoPro, it looks like they got a little inadvertent commercial right there at the end. But with that, and that's the end of the video. And it's nice to see that Peppa Mig is out there and really giving it to the Russians. I wonder, Matthew, if when Russian pilots look up at Peppa Mig, do they sit there and go, I'm gonna die?
Yeah, I just think back about the time that what's his name, Boris Johnson was singing that Peppa Pig remix. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
It was that remix video.
Yeah, that was hilarious. I know we're going to probably get copyrighted for it, so we can't show it, but I would love to show everybody what that looked like.
Peppa Mig. Oh man. But anyways, we're gonna be moving on from that, because that's a whole side note, a whole rabbit hole of its own. And also remember, everyone, if we can get copyrighted for playing It's a Mini Mall, we can get copyrighted for anything. So with that, we're now moving on into the next bit of location unknown news, where we also saw that France has sent more artillery, and of a brand new variety, one we have never seen on the front lines yet. This is a TRF-1. And of course, it's a 155mm artillery piece like any other in NATO, but let's take a look at the TRF-1 right here. You can actually see one being used. Where is this? Let's see.
Djibouti.
Let's see, fires a French army. It doesn't say where.
It says Djibouti.
Where does it say that?
Second line, about 5 or 6 words in.
Oh, Djibouti. But anyways,
Yes.
moving on from that, and the joke that's lasted forever. These things are, of course, pretty impressive and pretty heavy hitting. These things have a range of 15 to 19 miles, the exact same ranges that you can find on M777s, which are incredibly similar to these pieces, and of course, more support, more modern Western support for the Ukrainian artillery. And hopefully these things will make an impact on the front lines like the M777 has. And also, that FAMAS is really cool. Like, I just saw that. I was like, oh, that's really cool.
So, oh, okay, I see it now. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Let me show you the FAMAS rifle. The French service rifle right now. It's a lot of people say it's better than the L85 that the British use. I wouldn't know. I haven't shot either of them. But that's a FAMAS right there. Pretty interesting looking.
For a bullpup, it's pretty cool, but I just still don't like bullpups.
I'm going to be honest, I'm not really a big fan of bullpups either because they're usually very heavy to the back. They're not well balanced, at least the ones I've shot. But, you know, I might be wrong. This one might be well balanced. I don't really know. But anyways, with that, we're now going to be moving on from this TRF one being used in Djibouti. And we're now going to be moving on into day 294's Location Unknown News, which has a very interesting flavor of its own as well. Starting off with some pictures of some of Ukraine's first responders, because, you know, we always give these guys a little bit of credit here and there, and I always want to make sure that we can shoot some credit their way as much as possible. These guys are about as brave, or even braver sometimes, than frontline soldiers whenever given the opportunity, and I just wanted to share with you all some pictures of them, because these guys deserve a whole lot of praise as well for facing the dangers that they face every single day that the Russians create for them, and they face every day as a brand new challenge, and are always representing themselves incredibly well. With that, we're now going to be moving on into the next bit of Location Unknown News, where we actually saw Zelensky tell a joke about Russia. This was in the middle of the David Letterman interview. So with that, here's the video. And I thought this was hilarious. So with that, here it is.
Два одесита, два одеських єврея, і вони зустрічаються, один іншому каже, що, говорить, ну як там ситуація, що там говорять? Говорить, ну що, говорять, що війна, що за війна? Росія воює з НАТО. Тут серйозно? Да, війна, Росія воює з НАТО. І що, як там? Ну, як там що? Ну, росіяни що, 70 тисяч військових загинуло, всі ракети майже витратили вони, багато техніки поламано, підірвано, поламано, от така ситуація. Говорить, а що НАТО? Ну, що НАТО? НАТО ще не під'їхало.
Yeah, he roasted him. Oh, man. So the whole punchline of the joke is that the guy who was asking the questions about what the war is going on about, he thought that NATO had arrived with the kind of Russian casualties that they had taken, but no, NATO hasn't. And you know, Zelensky actually brings up a really good point right here. Imagine if NATO was a part of this war. Imagine what Russian casualties and what the war would look like then. They were having a really tough time dealing with just Ukraine. Imagine dealing with the United States of America and the whole of pretty much the European Union. That'd be pretty tough. And also, it's good to see that Zelensky still has a little bit of a funny bone in him. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into the next bit of Location Unknown News, where we can also see idiocracy in action. Waiting for it to load. I feel like, right there, Matthew, I feel like one of those kids when you're presenting a PowerPoint in school, and you like have that good intro, and then you click next slide, and it takes like 5 seconds for the slide to load, so there's like that awkward silence.
Or it jumps like 5 slides ahead, and you're desperately trying to get back to the second one.
And you're like, oh no. You know, anyways, it's time to get to the video. So what we're about to watch is from the perspective of a Ukrainian drone. We see a Russian drone below it. It slams down into it. Right here. Oh, dang it. And then it hits it. The drone goes falling to the ground. We also saw a quick replay there for the drone-on-drone action. But you now see a Russian has crawled out of his position where they were flying the drone from to come grab it in plain view of the Ukrainian drone, which is still flying. Oh, блядь, I lost my broken drone. Let me bring it back. And then he sees it. Oh, shit.
Oh.
He's like,
That look is priceless.
And the helmet's too big for him. Like, it's almost over his eyes. He's looking up, and he's like, oh. He's like, oh, no. That's not good. I mean, you see that he's holding the drone in his hands, and now he's dropped the drone, and he's taking off, running like a toddler for some reason, still looking back at the drone. And now he's going
Cue the Benny Hill music.
And then he ran right back to his position. We didn't get the second part of the clip before we ran the news tonight, but oh my god, that face was priceless. That is the best face ever, Matthew. That is the face that says, I think things are bad now. It's going to get way worse. Oh man, wait a minute, hang on. I gotta go find that meme. Let's see. It's going to get way worse meme. Let me find it. Ah, dang, I can't find it going. Hey, let me go to know your meme real quick. Here we go. So 1 second. Let me get rid of anime Colonel Sanders there, and let me go flip this over to y'all. If for some reason it's really buggy. Alright. This is the meme. This was actually taken in the middle, I believe, of the Chechen War. And then they put a caption over it. Hey friend, listen, I know the world is scary right now, but it's going to get way worse. And that's what that guy looks like right there. He is like, it's gotten way worse. Oh, man. I get a kick out of that for some reason. That guy knew right in that moment he had screwed everyone over with his stupidity. Like, he had an introspective moment. He was like, this is why we're going to lose the war. But with that, we're now going to be moving on after a small second of silence in honor of the fallen quip quo that I made. And we're now going to be moving on to the Russian losses. And they're pretty good too. But interestingly enough, again, the tank losses are almost zero. Which is very bizarre. We usually saw that the Russians were using an exorbitant amount of armor throughout the entirety of the war, and now we're seeing that they're losing almost none or none at all. We're largely believing that's because the Russians have either run out of armor, or they have run out of armor to reinforce their units with, so now they're treating armor as a valuable and inexpendable resource that they can no longer use in suicidal frontal assaults. And so we see that the tanks are no longer being used, and they're no longer in the area to be targeted and destroyed. However, as tank casualties begin to drop little by little each and every day, almost down into non-existence like we can see here, the infantry fatalities are starting to climb again. They've now gone from about around 360 to over December 12th to the 13th. Each day it's been around 500 again. And so we can now see that the infantry, without tank support, is starting to take a lot more casualties than they did before. And this may be showing the truth that while the Russians are continuing some areas of offensives like they were before, the lack of armor support is actually starting to show, and they're taking even higher casualties than they did before. We can also see that they destroyed 2 armored personnel carriers, a very low amount once again. It looks like the armored personnel carriers are also being treated as inexpendable resources. We also saw that 5 supply trucks were destroyed, a somewhat low number, and 2 Russian artillery pieces were destroyed, along with 7 MLRSs, which is actually a very high number for the most part, actually way higher than even the highest days we've seen mostly for MLRSs, and we also saw that 1 special equipment vehicle was also destroyed. By and large, fairly low casualties for the Russians today in terms of most losses except for their infantry. Again, the infantry has got to be the worst job in the Russian army, even beyond appeasing Putin and being part of that palace guard, because they are just getting like slammed all over the place. They don't get any support from their own military. Apparently they're not getting any artillery support, tank support, or anything similar. They're sent up to the front with really nothing, and they're expected to take ground, and they're not really taking any ground from what we can tell. And so moving on from the location unknowns, we're now going to be moving into the front line itself. And it's a pretty interesting sight. We really got no news today from anywhere in the northeastern area, in the Zaporizhia area, and in Kherson, except for the areas around Bakhmut and Donetsk. So real quick, we're going to cover the only bit of news we've gotten in the northeast, where we saw Ukrainian Mi-17 flying over the frozen forest, and it was a really crazy sight. You see them flying. The graphics are pretty poor, sadly, but it is solid white out there. They are flying through a winter wonderland, literally. And so with that, that's the end of the video, but once again, a really cool look at what the northeastern area is looking like, and also, while it's really cool to see, it's also really difficult to fight in, and also very difficult to supply forces in. With that, we're now going to be moving on from the area in the northeast, because, of course, nothing's really going on there due to those kinds of weather inclements, and we haven't seen the Russians or the Ukrainians take any ground in this area. However, if we move down further south towards the area of Bakhmut, we have seen that the Russians have made a modest amount of ground, and I'll actually show this to y'all right down here. So we're going to back up to the 11th, which was the last day we were on stream, and this was the Russian position at that time. Moving forward 48 hours, we can see that they've taken a block of houses here in the Bakhmut area, and that's it. They haven't moved forward any other part of the front. In fact, they've actually lost ground up in the Yakovlivka area. It appears that the Ukrainians were able to push the Russians out of the village and take it again. So that's very interesting to see. And we've also seen that they took no ground in the Soledar area as well. If we back up to the past 48 hours and up to today, once again, you can see no ground has been made. So once again, it looks like the Russians are taking a very high amount of casualties for no ground gain whatsoever. And it looks like they're probably not going to be gaining any ground beyond an occasional city block here and there on the eastern end of Bakhmut, because we don't see that happening otherwise. Nothing is changing here. They're taking a heavy amount of casualties. The front line's hardly moving. And it's pointless. It's really pointless to even talk about the Russians possibly doing something, because they can't. They can't until they push the Ukrainians off of that hill and also off the ridges to the rear of the city, which will be very difficult to do, almost impossible. And so, of course, the front line remains stagnant. So now let's get into the videos and let's see what's been going on the Bakhmut front in detail. Starting off with a clip from day 294, where we saw a Ukrainian soldier giving a message from the town of Bakhmut.
В місті Опитне та в місті Бахмут довгий час, на околицях міста Бахмут, довгий час йдуть запеклі бої. Але тут знаходяться хлопці та дівчата Збройних сил України, які кожного ранку, кожного вечора доказують, що наша Україна – це міць, це сталь, це титани. Титани, які готові виборювати свободу нашої неньки. І надалі ми, Збройні Сили України, та всі ті, хто захищає місто Бахмут, Опитне і другі населені пункти, будемо показувати дуже вражаючий результат. Слава Україні! Героям слава!
And it's good to see that the Ukrainian soldiers in the area still have high morale, enough to send messages to all of the other soldiers around the front that they are still holding and that everyone is doing an incredible job. Moving on into the next bit of location unknown news from day 293, we saw a Ukrainian soldier show us the situation in Soledar, and this was wild. Like, this was whiplash right here. The man literally pans the camera up. He's looking literally 100 years ago in World War I, pretty much. That is a battlefield in World War I, a village in France for all we care and all that matters. That is insane to look at. I'm not going to compare it. We've seen many pictures like that before on stream, but that is World War I if I've ever seen it.
Позиція, короче, говорить. Вибили їх оттуда, блядь. Як менше, блядь, дохуя їх там було. Побивали к ебаной матери, нахуй. Горели, бежала, блядь. Все, сука. Пидоросня ебаная. Добегалась, нахуй.
And with that, that's the end of the video, but just bizarre to see that the battlefield in Soledar has been reduced to pretty much looking like, hell, I can't really name a small French town or village right now. I guess the village near Fort Dumont, which would probably be the one that would look the most similar, but it's just bizarre to see and to think that people are actually living and fighting in something that someone's great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather would have fought in during the First World War. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little clip and further down towards Bakhmut. And strap yourselves in, because I have never gotten this much news in a single instant from Bakhmut. There is a lot of it and a whole bunch of interesting stuff. You got something for everything here. And so starting off on day 293, we saw that the Ukrainians in the area have decided that it's a good day for tea.
Here we can see the typical Ukrainian preparing his breakfast tea. As a firefight rages outside, the Ukrainian is quite comfortable in his abode and has decided to dwell upon the fermented taste of leaves.
Look at the cabinets. They're Ukraine flag colored.
They are, in fact, Ukraine flag colored. And we can also see that he's preparing the biscuits for the morning. The day is expected to have intermittent showers of Russian artillery, and also the occasional hellfire from Ukrainian infantry. Eat yourself a cracker, my boy. We all need the nutrients to carry on. And so with that, we can see that the Ukrainian soldiers will in fact not go hungry, and they will continue to fight on with the courage and ferocity that one of their kind usually does. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into the next bit of news from Bakhmut,
where we can see some Ukrainian paratroopers in action in Bakhmut. And here's the video.
А ну, пацаны, давайте, ну, видео на память, помахайте. А ну.
Ah, copyright. Oh my god, that was scary. And we can see them all having a good time here. Of course, the paratroopers being the paratroopers. Well kitted, actually. They've got some great gear. See this guy just being a silly little goober. Look at him go. It's good to see that they got high spirits. And is that water from like Iceland or whatever, Matthew?
Yeah, it could be, but that red cap though is a little different.
I would pull up Ukraine water brands. I swear that's like that Evia water. Let me pull that up. Evia water. Evian water. I think that's what it is. Like that. Yeah, it's got the red cap and everything.
Oh, you know, Evian spelled backward is naive.
Ooh, it's probably tap water, but anyways, they're drinking.
That's why they say naive.
They're drinking some pretty. Oh, holy moly! They're drinking some pretty high class water out there on the front lines. Listen, the paratroopers. Oh wait, hang on. Have you ever wanted to grow yourself a good and strong paratrooper to help yourself win the wars you find yourself defending your country from? Then you ought to drink yourself some Evian water. It's enough to grow the hairs on your chest and hair on your face like my beautiful goatee. Make sure to get yourself some Evian water today. Otherwise, your paratroopers will not have the strong bones and muscles that they need to carry out those activities on the front line that bring victory. Slava Ukraini. And so with that, that's the end of that little video. I'm very surprised that I could find that was an Evian water. Like, I don't know why that just flashed back to me and I remember the exact one. But with that, it's now time for us to move on into the next bit of news in Bakhmut, where we can actually see a continuation of the Bakhmut boy story. We're going to deem this boy, the boy in the brown coat, the Bakhmut boy, because he's really the only kid we've seen a lot on film in Bakhmut during both battles and during the entire time of this war, and I thought it was a deserving name. If any kid should be remembered, it's this one. We've seen him a lot. He's had a really sweet and somewhat sad story as well, and it seems that he's made himself some very strong and very well-armed friends in the Ukrainian army. So let's check out the video where we can see him hanging out with the soldiers of Ukraine out in the street. Also with his dog. Again, he loves that dog. Also, let me try and get the graphics up on this because I hate low graphics. Ah, copyright! And also we can see the boy here, once again, with his little dog. He's petting the dog. That's a very cute dog. It looks very fluffy. And I'm guessing that may be his family in the background.
The dog is camera shy. He won't look at it.
He's like, don't look at me. And then the dog hardly looked at the man. He was like, "Don't hurt me, man." He's like, "I'm just chilling." And then it looked away. He's like, "Don't look at the camera." But with that, that's the end of the video, and it's so nice to see that the Bakhmut boy is still okay, according to the little mini video series that we've seen, and that he's still out there, and he's made some friends with Ukrainian soldiers. You know, that's got to be a big boost of confidence for this boy, considering all he's gone through, and he's been in this war. He's literally been in it so much that he's gotten used to the sound of artillery, and I'm sure that he likes to know the people who are actually up there just about a mile down the road on that line, fighting and dying to make sure that they don't make it into the city. And so with that, that's the end of the video. But once again, give a shout out. Everyone give a huge round of applause to the Bakhmut boy. If his family or anyone that actually can reach out to the Bakhmut boy is here on this stream and able to, make sure to let him know that we all send him his best regards. There's a group out there called the Lee Spring Army, and we're all vouching for the boy of Bakhmut 100%. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from this little video and on into our next one, where we saw the reality of what Bakhmut really looks like. And it's pretty gruesome. We can see, of course, buildings destroyed. We can actually see the floors have collapsed, and we're looking at what used to be the hallways on multiple floors of what appears to be an apartment building, and now it's just open to the sky above, and there's no floors that exist except for the ground floor. Moving on to the next picture, we can see what appears to be a Ukrainian firefighter moving through the building, of course, as heroic and brave as they are, trying to either get people out or find ways to quell the fire the best they can. And in the last picture, once again, the firefighters are in the building and still trying to either save people or stop the fire as best as possible. You've really got to give it to these. I mean, I don't say this just to say it. You've got to give it to these guys. They could end up suffocating and burning to death themselves if they pull a wrong move. And these guys are going into buildings hour after hour, day after day, each time it happens, saving countless dozens of people, helping people out of terrible situations, and generally just being a good helping hand behind the front lines. And the firefighters deserve a lot of credit. I have a friend who's a firefighter, and honestly, the guy is pretty brave and pretty selfless when it comes down to doing his job, just like these firefighters are as well. And so always make sure, also firefighters really get a good rap in the United States because they're considered like the cool people of the EMS services. So always be friends with your firefighters because they're pretty cool people. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into our next bit of news in Bakhmut, where we can see the Ukrainian soldiers in Bakhmut once again defending the front lines. This is actually a video made by Radio Free Europe, and so, of course, they do such an incredible job making these videos. I'm not going to butt in much. I'm just going to let y'all watch this video because it speaks for itself. And so, here it is. If it loads. Is 540 a little bit too much? Is 540 too much to ask these days? Come on, internet, work with me. All right.
Тільки поставили, вон водичка просто і все.
А де ви берете водичку чисту?
Була в колонці, тепер в колонці. Води ж тепер ніде по городу нет.
Нема води.
Води нема, оце ж тепер погано нам.
Евакуація!
Здравствуйте. Прошки будемо робити. А що ще? М'яса нема, нічого нема. Тушоночки хочется. Тушенки нету, мяса ж нету. Тушеночки хочется.
Дом попало под
холодно,
Полтаву,
конечно.
И я не помню.
Уже смотрели,
потом
куда
Белую
буржуйку
церковь,
поставить,
а
некуда.
Потом с Белой церкви они уже где-то в другом месте. Они
Да
мне
что
звонили,
перезимуем,
говорят,
лишь
чё,
бы
3 дня,
мир
через
уже
3 дня,
был,
говорят,
Господи,
идите,
уже
ищите
молим,
себе
молим.
место. Она что?
That woman is a G. Like, look how old she was, and she's just out there, like, living her life. And she's like, I wish I had canned meat, but, you know, one can only dream. And she's just living it out. Like, honestly, I gotta give her a lot of credit for that. That's actually pretty brave on her end, especially considering how old she is.
Евакуація! Евакуація!
Я Тамару Ивановну ищу. Тамару Ивановну.
Вон она.
А
вы не хотите эвакуации, а у вас...
Пока нет.
Пока нет.
Мне рассказали страшное. Сказали, в Краматорск привозят. Переночевали, бросили.
Нет, ты расскажи, куда мы их везем. Нет, у меня есть эвакуация в Днепре. В Днепре вас в шелтер. Если захотите, поедете на запад, но если не захотите, в шелтере останетесь.
Ну, мне так сказали про Краматорск.
В Краматорске можете у меня дома переночевать, а завтра я вас отправлю на Днепр.
Ну ладно, посмотрим.
The man, I think that man was an opportunist. She's like, you can stay at my place. And he went, oh. He's like, then we'll see.
В Краматорске можете у меня дома переночевать, а завтра я вас отправлю на Днепр.
Look, she said you can stay at my place, and his whole demeanor and expression changed. He's like, oh. He was like, okay.
He did. He went, oh.
Like, watch that. Listen to this guy.
Переночевать, а завтра я вас отправлю на Днепр.
He went, oh.
Ну ладно, посмотрим.
Like he's trying to hold back his excitement.
Yeah, he's like, hell yeah.
He said, oh, yes, maybe.
He's like, hell no, I don't want to go to Kramatorsk. I don't want to I don't want to be dropped off in the middle of nowhere. You stay at my place. Oh, he'd say, oh, okay. Starts like rubbing his hands together. He's like, hee. Anyways.
Но ее нет дома. Но у нас, по-моему, мы уговорили вот этого дедушку на понедельник. Я не знаю, но он просто переживает, что ему некуда ехать. Я, по-моему, его уговорила. Прямо на ящике написала номер телефона свой, если что, они смогут связаться.
От він каже, що людей кидають в Краматорську. Ніхто ж не кидає.
Нет. Если, не дай бог, некуда разместить человека, во-первых, очень много волонтеров в этом направлении работать. Во-вторых, я дома у себя размещаю, у своих подружек размещаю, у наших волонтеров дома. Дома менты эвакуацию, пока мы не найдем их место. Кормим, поем, обуваем, одеваем, или в пункте обогрева всегда подзарядим, если вдруг у нас света нет.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Did y'all see that? Okay, I just want y'all to know, the fundraising money is going to good means. We could see that UNHCR was there at some point providing some kind of insulation or cover for broken windows before the building was completely knocked out. That is what Sunday's fundraiser was for things like this. And while this building was no longer usable, it at least provided temporary shelter for a short time while people were living in there until they could be evacuated. So there you go. There is part of our fundraiser money going to good use, helping out people in Ukraine. Just in case you were wondering, where is UNHCR? Sometimes they're literally on the front lines, like right here. Surprised it just said she's a fast talker, kind of like me. I talk at a million miles an hour.
12 тільки исполнилось.
Це ти в який клас ходиш?
6.
Як ти живеш, як твій день тут проходить в Бахмуті?
Ну, дома все время, а вечером в подвал ходим спать, отдыхать.
Холодно в хаті?
Ну, да, холодновато.
А як у вас з їжею тут, з ліками?
Ну, я не знаю, там мама всем заведет. Она нас нормально. Она готовит, и я кушаю.
Ясно, стріляють сильно вас?
Да.
Де ви ховаєтесь? Оце в підвал ходите, так?
В подвале.
Про що ти мрієш тут в Бахмуті?
Планшет я мечтаю.
А друзі твої виїхали?
Да, они все уехали.
Работаем на пределе своих возможностей, сил, но пока весь город мы не покидаем, помогаем людям по возможности, выезжаем, спасаем людей на скорой. Около 10 тысяч находится еще мирного населения в городе, ведется постоянные обстрелы.
Hang on, everyone. I'm going to pause this video right here so that we can get an idea of how many of them have left. So let's pull up the population of Bakhmut, and let's see how many people are still left behind. So in 2020, the population of Bakhmut was 73,212. And so we can assume that the Ukrainians have gotten out about 63,000 of them based off of these numbers. So they've actually done a massive evacuation. That's a lot of people.
Мирного населения. Начиная от минометов, танки, реактивные, грады, ураганы, самолеты залетают. По сводкам им осталось меньше 5 километров до центра города, меньше.
Чи вірите ви, що Бахмут відстоять?
Верим, конечно. Надо, конечно, верить. Пока у нас команды нету бросать город, потому что люди в городе еще есть, надо им как бы тоже помогать. Пока мы еще нужны этому городу.
Мы эвакуируем кошку. Ее зовут Соня.
Переселенка з Бахмута, так?
Да. Я поляк, но я приехал сюда из Шотландии. Мы эвакуируем людей из Бахмута, и мы привезем здесь гуманитарную помощь. Но мое дело просто переводчик, потому что наш возитель из Новой Зеландии, он по-русски не говорит. И ему нужен переводчик, и это мое дело.
Ну, теперь у вас еще и кошка есть.
И кошка есть. Ну, это Ольги кошка, я ее купил. Соня. Соня, скажи привет.
Oh, that's a cute cat.
Вот.
На взрывы не реагируют.
Нет, давай.
And of course, a tremendous job by Radio Free Europe providing that little video to us. And I've got to say, it's nice to know that the Ukrainian firefighters are staying in the city until every last person is left. And based off of the numbers that we've gotten so far, it appears that the evacuation has been going quite well, actually. They've gotten about 63,000 people out. There's only about 10,000 left. Hopefully they can get the remaining 10,000 out, so that way the Ukrainians don't really have to worry about these civilians getting caught up in any kind of crossfire, shelling, or anything similar. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little clip of news in Bakhmut, and we're also going to be moving this back up to Ukraine instead of in the middle of Azerbaijan. And we're now going to be moving to the next clip, where we saw a Ukrainian marksman in operation in a stairwell in Bakhmut. And I have to say that his shooting form is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Take a look at that, Matthew. Look at the form. He's got his legs up in the air. He's got his legs up in the air like a teenage girl on the phone with her crush. And it looks incredible. But anyways, getting past that, he's having to work with the limitations he's got. Let's see him in action.
Video. Що там? Валік, що там?
Что на позиции? Что-то видно? Идентифицировать можно?
We hear the shelling landing right outside.
Давай.
And with that, that's the end of the video. And once again, you can see another bit of UNHCR covering / insulation that was once used to keep this building somewhat hospitable until these people who were inside of it left. And I've got to point that out because I've noticed that a lot in the Bakhmut area, and UNHCR was working a lot in this area. And who knows, maybe a decent amount of our fundraising money went into directly buying this stuff so that way they could use it. And so always remember that our fundraisers actually do good on the front lines, and that's a good instance of it right there. With that, we're now going to be moving on from that and into our next bit of news, which occurs a little bit behind Bakhmut from what we can tell, as a Ukrainian grad fired off its rockets into the, I don't know, rockets, I'm sorry, I was trying to make that work with the US anthem. The lyrics are totally different. So with that, here's the video. We see the grad out there. You see this video could have some more pixels. We'll give it some. But then that pauses the whole video, but now we can see it firing. No audio, however, which is kind of odd, but we can see it's firing off its rockets towards the front and hopefully hitting the Russians well. And so with that, that's the end of the video, and we're now going to be moving on into the next one. Because, of course, there's always another one. Moving down into the Kurdyivka area, we did see some more Ukrainian soldiers having a feast. This time, literally under direct fire. You can hear the bullets bouncing off the ground right in front of them. But these soldiers decided that it was time to have a little treat, a little bit of food, maybe even a lunch break. They clocked out and decided to eat.
Що происходить, коли в підару валить їхнього офіцера? Погода так собі. Опади короткочасні.
And with that, that's the end of the video. But it is cool to see that these guys are so cool, so bad at. Well, we don't want to make that a trend on this channel, but so just bad A. You know what I mean? You know, bad rear end. That they'll sit here, literally bullets bouncing off the ground right in front of them, and start drinking and eating some hot food. These guys are hardcore. Also,
bad Djibouti.
this guy is hard Djibouti.
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. That one sounded a little too wrong. But these guys are something else. I've really got to say they are something. Also, I saw that Bella joined the stream, and I saw that they actually called me out and said, the enforcer never says hello. That's because I'm in my zone right now. I'm reporting this news. I do read the live chat, though. I see all of y'all's messages that you'll send in. Don't ever be unassured about that. So, hello. I hope you're doing well, and I didn't think I'd be called out tonight for that, but hello. And in case of you have joined a little late tonight, I did see all of y'all join, and hello to y'all as well. Just in case if y'all thought y'all are being left out, I do see y'all. It's just that the all-seeing eye of the enforcer can't respond to everything, sadly. But with that, it's now time for us to move on from the Bakhmut front and back into the rear lines near Luhansk, where we actually saw two interesting incidents. Starting off on day 294, where we saw that a Russian soldier, or soldiers, plural, they multiply like mitosis. They were looting. They were looting cars in the middle of occupied territory. Actually, this isn't even really occupied territory, according to the Russians. This is part of the Luhansk People's Republic, now a part of the Russian Federation, and Russian soldiers were running down these streets and looting this like it was some part of East London. The East End. Look at this guy. He is like, he's got to be a criminal or something, because he looks like a master at carjacking. Look at these guys. This guy is also taking a crap or something. He's like squatting on the side of the street.
Oh.
We now see the driver getting out. He's now decided to get in on this carjacking action. What is this, musical chairs? What are they doing? Like, look at this. Yeah, Ivan, let me bust in the... Wait, hang on. Let me whip out a goofy Arnold voice. Maybe that'll make this better. I'm busting into the car. I'll switch seats. And instead of scooting around, this guy gets out. He was literally in the driver's seat pretty much. The next guy gets in. This guy now walks all the way around the car, gets in the driver's seat. The other guy gets out and closes the door that was in there before. Now this guy's getting in the driver's seat. Now they're all having a powwow near the dirty van. I'm Dirty Dan. And now we can see them over here near another one, and they set off the car alarm. Now it looks like they're trying to bust out the window in that one, open up the door, get in there.
What are they using? A Slim Jim or something? Or a wire?
I don't think they're using a Slim Jim, Matthew. I feel like that would be a little beefy, you know, for the job they're doing.
I knew you were about to do that. I knew
it. Anyways, getting back to this. I don't even know what they're doing. They're just robbing cars at random in the middle of the LPR. And it looks like this guy tried to wax the headlights with his hand. What the? This whole video is just raw confusion. I don't really know what their priority is here. Trying to, I don't get it. I really don't. I can't even.
We do know that the Russians won't be good at being criminals either. So they're ruling out their career choices pretty fast.
Oh man, honestly, Matthew, this kind of reminds me of like one of those stupid stories you hear on I Almost Got Away with It or something like that. You know, like the show about people who escape from prison or whatever.
Yes.
You know,
they just pull up in their doo-doo van covered in doo-doo and try to rob the cars.
Their poo-poo pee-pee van. And, you know, it's almost like those criminals, you know, when they sit there and they're like, I escaped prison and I you know, I decided I would never do anything criminal again. I would just hide real low the rest of my life, and I wouldn't get in trouble.
I said just one more time, and I'll be done. I'll never do it again.
And I decided that while I was in the parking lot at Walmart and I saw the cop in plain view right in front of me, I decided I would try and carjack a car because I liked it, and it was last time, nothing could go wrong. These are like those people, but that's like the whole of the Russian army.
Yes.
Man, it's sad. It really is. And you know, the people who own these cars are probably literally looking out their windows of the apartment building and helpless, you know, because they don't have guns. These guys got guns. If you walk out in the street and you're like, hey, you're robbing my car, they'll probably just blow your brains out in the middle of the street and continue to keep on carjacking. So with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little clip, and we're now going to be moving on to some sweet, sweet Kwama. Because, you know, the Russians never get away with anything. Ever. They got blown away in Alchevsk. A whole entire Russian headquarters got obliterated. And we can actually see that apparently some Russian troops recorded this from their dorm. I guess they're going to the University of Alabama now.
Вот и по нам въебало, по общаге. Окно выбило. Фу.
So this is what Orc School looks like.
Also, it looks like their dorm's taking a little bit of a scuffing. This must be Pi Kappa Alpha. Also, look, they got the psycho paint job that you get in the psych wards in the US in the 50s. You know, it's that green and white paint job.
Yeah.
They already know that the Russian army is mentally inept.
What is that in the corner?
Yeah, what is that? Is that
those two eyes poking out?
it's Slender Man. What else can we come up with, Matthew? The sleep paralysis demon. Let's see. I don't know.
An orc.
Oh my God, Matthew! It's Patrick Lancaster. That's the scariest.
What's he doing down there?
What the Patrick Lancaster doing with concrete through his head?
What's the dog doing?
Oh Lord! Oh my God! This place has been ripped apart. You hear someone screaming down below. Hey, knocked out the TV! Or something like that. Wait a minute! Someone said that was the Amityville Horror, Matthew. It's Jody. It's the pig in the window.
It sure is.
Magic Sky Girl said, have I ever been up close with psych paint? Yes, I have, and I even have the psych word socks. I'm just kidding. But I had to make that joke.
Вот балкон был, балкона нету нахуй. 9-й этаж. Прилет Хаймерса. Что там у нас дальше?
Well, it looks like the balcony's still intact.
Ой-ой-ой-ой-ой. Ебать, ты посмотри. Владик.
What was that? He walks out into the balcony. His first words are, "Oi-oi-oi-oi-oi."
Ой-ой-ой-ой-ой.
What is that? Like, what does that mean?
Ебать, ты посмотри. Владик, там пол общаги нету, блядь, ебаный в рот. Как мы спускаться будем? Там пол общаги нету. Вон там.
And all the asbestos flying around the air makes it look like it's snowing.
Блядь, надо уебывать нахуй отсюда, нахуй.
These Russians, for their snow day, will wind up in a couple of years in the hospital with mesothelioma. But with that, that's the end of the video. You can see the karma is very sweet. While the Russians loot cars, the Ukrainians loot their lives. And of course, it's a fair trade. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on a little bit further down the front lines, now the Bakhmut area, now going over the front line analysis and also everything going on behind the lines. And we're going to be moving on down to Donetsk, where we saw on day 293, a Max Pro survived the unbelievable. This was actually something I didn't even think would ever happen with a Max Pro, but check this out. Y'all are going to be blown away by this. It's going to be so much, Matthew, that it's going to make you go, oi, 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 oi.
Max Pro после боя, блядь. Охуеть.
Oh my god. That is an RPG-7 that's stuck in the back door of a Max Pro.
Really?
Yeah. The Russians fired an RPG-7 at this thing, and it literally ate it. It's just sitting there. It didn't blow up. It didn't go through the armor. It's just hanging out in the rear armor of the Max Pro. And you know, this is something that's been a little bit controversial as to why we're seeing the Max Pro. It's of course argued that it's terrible and it sucks, and that's why the US is so happy to get rid of so many of them. But I beg to differ, because the fact that it literally just soaked up an RPG-7 to the rear of the vehicle, which is usually the weakest part, and it didn't blow up, and it also didn't go through, that is impressive. Very impressive, and I'd have to say the Max Pro is very solid for that reason. Literally, it's literally solid. Wait a minute, did it flatten out like a pancake? Look at that. Like, it looks like it didn't even go through. It's just like flattened up on the thing.
Do you think they didn't pull the pin out?
That would be impossible. That would be like an idiot move if they didn't pull the pin out. Even with the pin on, I think at that kind of velocity, it would just blow up. I don't know. That's bizarre. Look at that. It's like it didn't even go through. It's like it just hit it and flattened out like a pancake.
Да. Але витримала бронекапсула, це пиздец. Короб набрав.
Ой-ой-ой-ой-ой.
Снайпера, блядь, все попрострелював.
And this thing's taking a beating. It's taking direct rifle fire. Man, that thing's really going through a lot.
This guy's in shock.
Yeah,
like he's really shocked.
I mean, like dude, I would be in shock too if I walked out of my Max Pro after thinking it got hit by like a bowling ball, and then go to the back of the truck and see that an RPG has flattened like a piece of squash on the back of the truck. I would probably be in disbelief and shock as well. That's just insane. Like, who would have ever thought you would see something like that? Only a Max Pro could handle something like that. So with that, we're now going to be moving a little bit further down the front lines in Donetsk to watch the Ukrainians destroy a Russian helicopter, which did not show up on the kill count today, but we did see go down today. It'll show up on tomorrow's, most likely. It's smoking? Someone call up Mark Zuckerberg and tell him to whip out the Sweet Baby Rays. We got something smoking. And it's going down. It's going below the tree line a little. The drone's getting some altitude to let us watch this in 4K. Now we're being shown some buckets of gravel. Oh, wait a minute. It's going down finally. Ooh, that was... Oh. Now we're being shown a picture of a somewhat larger man.
Mr. Lunchtime in his younger years.
Ooh. Ooh, it's going to be real tough for anyone to get out of that. You see, the helicopter flipped over, and the fire that was once at the top of the helicopter on the engines has now started to engulf the entire helicopter because the fire is now on the bottom, so the flames go up, and everyone in the helicopter, if they're still in there and still cognizant of what's going on, they will be roasting, to say the least.
Oh, okay, that's what that is.
Oh. What an outro. Oh my god. That man was playing that recorder like he was trying to get his next mixtape out and it was going to be a smash hit. Oh my god. Oi, 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 oi. But anyway, so that's the end of the video. And nice to see that the Ukrainians were able to take down another Russian Mi-17. And it looks like we know what the buckets of ash were now. And so with that, that's the end of the video. And once again, nothing has been happening in Donetsk. It appears that the front line is stable as usual. We're now going to be moving down into Mariupol. Well, actually, sorry, we're going to be moving past Mariupol because we've already covered that news earlier in the stream. And we've also seen nothing happen on the Zaporizhia front line at all. The front line's been completely silent today. We're now going to be moving on into Melitopol, where we saw that something bizarre has happened. I never thought that that partisans would get this strong or have this kind of ability. But there's a big bridge in between the town of Melitopol and the smaller town that's kind of like a suburb of Melitopol that's called Konstantinivka. This bridge right here, I guess you could say, connects the two by and large, and it's the only road, for the most part, unless you go further up and over here, that connects the two. It's the major roadway. Somehow, partisans got a hold of enough explosive material to blow up the bridge. So here's a video of someone actually showing that, and showing you that the partisans are pretty much running the area around Melitopol due to what they've done here. Oh, it's loading. Hang on, y'all. Sorry. Testing. Can you hear me, Matthew?
Yes, hello.
Okay, so I'm just making sure. Let me check OBS. Okay, the connection is good. I don't know why that's not loading.
Must be a Reddit server problem.
Let's see if it'll load here. Let's skip for. Oh, here we go. And look at that. Oi, 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 oi.
That looks like it'd be fun to drive on.
On it. Oh, talk about like flattening out your suspension, man. If you're driving fast on that thing, oh man, the front fender's gone, the rear bumper's gone, the wheels.
I just take a Lada over it and it'll be fine. That suspension's like what, made out of leaf springs?
Man, this is the kind of bridge you would see on like SnowRunner.
Yeah.
But oh man, they did a good piece of work on this thing. I don't think it's going to be usable much. They're probably going to have to do a decent amount of repairs to it.
Он прогнулся, видимо, били по опорам. И, скорее всего, в скором времени ударят еще раз. Потому что, как вы видите, националисты своей цели не достигли.
But the street lamp, somehow, I don't know why, but they blew up the bridge and the whole thing is caved in, but somehow the street lamp on that section of the caved in bridge is still on. Impressive Ukrainian electrical engineering right there, I gotta say.
Но в очередной раз жизнь нам подгадили. С вами проект Варгонза. Мы находимся в Мелитополе. Очередной пакет РСЗО «Химарс» прилетел по городу. На горизонте я вижу черный дым. Сейчас попробуем найти место следующего прилета.
Literally, when you did the jingle, we heard the explosion. And from what we could tell, it may have been saboteurs, it may have been partisans, it may have well as been a HIMARS. We're not really sure at this point, but from what we could collect, it may have been partisan activity. But anyways, with that, that's the end of this little video. Nice to see that the partisans or the HIMARS are doing a good job of knocking out Russian bridges and logistical connections well behind the lines. We're now going to be moving on into Kherson, where we saw that on day 294, a Ukrainian soldier met some of the cute and precious stray dogs of Kherson that are still incredibly cute. And so here's the video. I gotta keep it muted. You can see these dogs are very sweet, still wanting some petting. This one's very friendly. And that one's also very obedient. Very good dogs all around. We now see a third one showed up. He's now petting this one. And now you see the very hyper one that was jumping on the guy, running around and playing with the others. And now following the guy. This is a nice dog. Kind of reminds me of Shiba a little bit. Yeah. It's like, are you coming with me? And now I can see it taking a squat. And now you see it's very interested in the camera. That's such a cute dog. And it's wanting to play. Poor thing. Oh, it likes that. Now we see another one. Oh, that one's cute. That one's got a cute face.
Man, what do you give that dog?
I don't know. It was like some kind of like a bone treat or something like that. Now this dog's his friend too. he's going around Kherson and he's making a mafia of dogs. He's gonna be like the dog mafia. Oh, that's a cute cat. That's a very pretty one.
How's it lasted that long?
I don't know, and it's very clean. It's a very clean cat. This thing's got high standards. Now see another one walking up. We now see him petting the cat. A lot of these animals are very friendly. You would think that strays would become violent at some point, but they're very nice stray cats and dogs. This cat's taking advantage of the free petting. And we now see him back with the dog again. A different dog, actually. That one actually started licking the camera. It's a fan of technology. And with that, that's the end of the video. But once again, showing y'all the cute little animals at Kherson. And of course, we have helped out fundraisers that have hopefully helped out some of these animals getting out of that area. The International Humane Society has been the one we've done twice. And I believe we've raised about $25,000 to $30,000 total for them. So hopefully that's going to helping these dogs out, making sure that they don't live in terrible conditions all the time like these poor sweet dogs are, and cats as well. And so with that, we're now moving out of Kherson. We're now going to be moving. Yep, up to Kyiv to listen to the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky. And so, let me go get that real quick because I forgot the link to that. I don't know why. But here we go. Whoop, there we go. It's on y'all's page, and here's the video.
Welcome His Excellency.
By the way, real quick, actually, shout out to Mark Slovokrini, because this is actually an address that Zelensky made to the New Zealand House of Commons. So, kind of a little directly interlinked with y'all today.
Його високоповажності президента України Володимира Зеленського, який доєднується до нас в режимі онлайн.
Дорогі друзі, пані прем'єр-міністре, пане спікере, пане лідере.
One second, everyone, hang on. I didn't know it would auto-generate the subtitles in Ukrainian. Let me see if it will. Oh, nope, wrong one. We want the English. We want English. All right, so here we go.
Дорогі друзі, пані прем'єр-міністре, пане спікере, пане лідер опозиції, пані та панове урядовці та парламентарі.
Where are the subtitles?
Народи Нової Зеландії.
Are you kidding me?
Uh-oh. YouTube doesn't want to generate them.
Yeah, YouTube's like, screw you, man, no subtitles. Look at that. I literally put auto-generated English. There's just no subtitles. Let's
auto-translate. Just that option alone.
Let's see if we can auto-translate, but then it wants a language. See?
Huh.
So, let's see.
Press English and see what it does again.
Ukrainian auto-generate English.
Я вдячний за цю можливість звернутися до вас.
Still no subtitles. What? Bizarre. Don't screw us over like that. Come on. Let's see. We'll go to this one.
The story of Dak.
Dak. That's what you say when you're really drunk and someone screwed you over. Dude, you Dak. Anyways, here's the video.
Здоров'я, шановні українці. Сьогодні був дуже плідний день для України в різних аспектах. Маємо дуже хороші новини з Франції. Сьогодні там пройшли 2 конференції на підтримку України. Перший їх результат – 1 мільярд євро допомоги нашій стійкості, передусім енергетиці. Кожного дня здобуваємо для України нові сили, щоб пройти цю зиму. І я дякую усім, хто працює заради цього і хто допомагає нашій державі. Маємо сьогодні і рішення інших країн, окрім Франції, Чехії, Іспанії, Швейцарії, про надання додаткових пакетів підтримки. Італійський Сенат ухвалив рішення щодо збройної підтримки. Норвегія готує нову програму підтримки нашої держави і людей. Сьогодні я брав участь в обох конференціях в Парижі. Перша стосувалась більшою мірою наших міждержавних відносин. Другий форум був орієнтований на бізнес Франції. Українські урядовці представили французьким підприємцям можливості для інвестування в Україну вже зараз, коли війна ще триває, і після нашої перемоги. Обговорили і те, що можемо додатково зробити для посилення нашої держави на європейському рівні. Перша леді України сьогодні у Франції презентує гуманітарні проекти для наших партнерів. Те, що може бути зроблено максимально швидко для підтримки у сфері медицини, освіти та гуманітарної допомоги нашим людям. Зокрема, через фундацію Олен. Я вдячний усім французам за підтримку України не лише політично, не лише оборонною і санкційною, що життєво важливо, але й за те, що ми однаково сприймаємо необхідність захищати цінність людського життя, гідність людини і ті гуманітарні можливості, які кожному і кожній дає сучасний світ. Говорив з президентом Європейської ради Шарлем Мішелем. Подякував за рішення щодо 18 мільярдів євро для України в наступному році і за збільшення Європейського фонду миру на 2 мільярди євро. Ці кошти можуть значно допомогти нам зберігати соціальну стабільність. Готуюся і до участі в засіданні Європейської ради 15 грудня. Щойно звернувся до парламенту і народу Нової Зеландії, країни, яка принципово підтримує нас з перших тижнів повномасштабної російської агресії. Розказав про нашу формулу миру, про спеціальний саміт, який ми скликаємо для реалізації нашої формули. І закликав Нову Зеландію взяти на себе лідерство в підтримці на міжнародному рівні одного з пунктів формули миру, того, який стосується екологічної безпеки і розмінування. Нова Зеландія – одна з тих країн, яка розуміє, що руйнація навколишнього природного середовища дорівнює руйнації життя, і яка може допомогти дипломатичній мобілізації свого регіону заради того, щоб реалізувати українську формулу миру. Ще одне. Сьогодні я підписав ухвалений Верховною Радою закон про ліквідацію ОАСК – Окружного адміністративного суду Києва. Ця історія завершилась, а історія реформ продовжується. Продовжується навіть під час такої війни. Я дякую всім, хто працює заради України. Я дякую всім, хто воює заради нашої незалежності, хто зараз на фронті, кому зараз важко. Ми вас підтримуємо. Ми в вас дуже сильно віримо. Слава усім нашим воїнам, слава нашому незламному народу, слава Україні!
And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Zelensky here on day 294 of the war in Ukraine. And that also wraps up our news summary for the day as well. If you've enjoyed, make sure to subscribe. At this point, the news stream is over and the question stream is about to begin. This is, and I'm trying to call them streams now because sometimes we have people hop on during the question segment and think that this is always supposed to be news the entire time. There's two parts of the stream. There's the first part, which is all of the news, and then there's the question segment where we answer everyone's questions as much as we can, all of the live chats that we can, and all of the super chats that we can. And we always give the super chats to priority over live chat questions because if you send in a super chat, you're helping this channel to keep alive, and we owe you a massive debt of gratitude, so you do come first. So with that, I thank you all so much once again for watching. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, make sure to comment. It all helps us out in the end. And also make sure to check out our video projects as well on this channel because, you know, I'm not biased or anything, but I think they're pretty good. The guy who makes them puts a lot of effort into those things. And, you know, I maybe give him a watch here and there. And so with that, we are going to be moving on into the question segment. But before we do, I know that Matthew's got some brilliant polls that he's put up, and I want to make sure to hear them out. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right. So for our final segment, we have 3 polls to address. And the first one says, how do you think Russia is going to handle Viktor Bout's return long term? It looks like 63% said that Russia will use him for propaganda. 15% said they will assassinate him later. 12% said not sure and undecided. And 9% said they will let him live normally. Now, I would definitely agree with the majority and say that he's definitely going to be used for propaganda to humiliate the United States because of the somewhat unequal trade. I doubt they're going to assassinate him because that really wouldn't make any sense to go through all the trouble of all those negotiations and trade just to simply kill him later. He's definitely not going to live normally either. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say it's kind of tough for me to say. I think that we'll keep a very sharp eye on him, but at the same time, I think if he goes a little off the rails, a little bit too much than we thought, I think we will just end up offing the guy. Because while we did go through a decent amount of effort, really all of the effort was just involved in getting the basketball player returned. And once that happened, you know, really all the difficulty in the art of the negotiating and the art of the deal, the best. But anyways, moving on, I'm about to go and recede. But anyways, I think that once we got through the negotiating and the deal, the effort and time we put into it becomes null, and it's really just about, is this guy going to pose enough of a threat to us that we need to off him soon? And if so, when and how? And so with that, I hope that answers that poll fairly well. Of course, there's no real clear answer to that one. You know, we don't really know if they're going to let him go or if he's going to get back to his old ways. We're not really going to be able to catch him, or if he just, you know, disappears in a large explosion. We don't know. But with that, I hope that answers the poll fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right. And the second one says, the IAEA will establish continuous monitoring programs at Ukraine's 4 nuclear plants. What are your thoughts? 91%, which is a humongous majority, say that good. Nuclear needs monitoring. 6% said not sure, and 4% said, it's really unnecessary. Now, for me, I definitely think that monitoring nuclear plants is a necessity, and it looks like an overwhelming majority of y'all also agree with that. Because right now, we really don't know exactly what's going on at these plants, and we need somebody that is competent there to make sure that it's being taken care of full time. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to be honest. Matthew and me have a lot of personal experience with nuclear power in a way of trying to film a video a long time ago that never happened. Some of y'all may have been around to hear about it, but we were supposed to eventually make a video on the Browns Ferry power plant here in northern Alabama. We never were able to, due to one reason or another. It just never came together, and the project was canceled, and we've never returned to it again. But this power plant is in the middle of the United States, and you would think that American power plants would largely be incredibly safe. From our research, this one is decently unsafe, and it's just kind of teetering every day in between being okay and going into complete disaster, and it's done that multiple times throughout its history. Not to diss on anyone at the TVA. I'm sure there's great people who work for the TVA, but you know, we had some problems here, and on top of that, whenever we tried to film, you see, because to explain this real quick, you know, to add a little bit to the story, we actually would film the video, we'll try to film the video, somewhere about right here. And this is on the other side of the road. It's not owned by the TVA, yet they would have their company guards come out, armed with rifles, and they would try and act like they just had the right to order us to do stuff off of their property, like they were some kind of a law enforcement, and they were going to tell us to give us their IDs or hand over our cameras so that way they could confiscate the film, and, you know, all kinds of stuff, or just tell us to stop filming like they could, and, you know, not to be one of those, you know, like sovereign citizen amendment, you know, auditing people, but that was incredibly aggravating to me. We dealt with that every single time we did. The last time they got smart with it, instead of just having a guy come off the property and act like he could tell us what to do out there, they actually parked their truck on their property. Then he got out and made sure to grab an M4, a literal M4, but we actually noticed later that it was filled with blanks and also had a flag inside the chamber. So, you know, if we were really attentive, you know, and I'm not going to go through the hypothetical because I don't know how much YouTube would like that hypothetical. But anyways, if you just paid attention, it was all smoke and mirror show. But anyways, he sauntered across the street, taking his time to make sure that we saw the gun before he came over there and said, hey, we just want to let y'all know it's okay, y'all can film, but don't come over to the other side of the street or there'll be massive trouble. So you know, not only have we had
the first time we went out there, it's a funny story. We kind of got some of it on tape, but not the entire interaction. The first time we went out there, the guard came out in his truck. He whipped up real fast, and he said, "Y'all can't be out here filming." And all it took was me saying one thing. I said, "Well, isn't this a public roadway? We're standing on like the side of the road, and it was public." He's like, he gets on the radio, "Ronnie, we need backup." He starts freaking out and like going berserk and stuff. And finally, they like either got told by a supervisor or somebody that we can be there. But there's nothing wrong with standing out there and taking pictures. It's public roadway.
Yeah, and also you're on an easement, you know, and of course, you know, the easement only goes so far. Like, for example, you know, if you're starting to run towards the power plant over a lot of this property, that's not really the easement. But, you know, I'm kind of wondering, Matthew, at this point, could we have just, you know, been on the other side of the road as long as we were close to it? It is the easement after all. Like, what if your car broke down on that side of the road? What are you supposed to do? Cross over into oncoming traffic to pull over on the other side of the road so that way you don't trespass on TVA property? You know, like that.
I believe technically you can, but I guarantee you they'll definitely call the sheriff and they'll try to have you arrested anyway.
You know, it's really messed up, honestly. And on top of that, there's a million security issues at that power plant, because if you ever look at papers about it, the top containment cell, the big blue thing on the building, I'll try and show you all a picture of it. This big blue thing is literally what it is. From what I was reading, it's just sheet metal, and they're kind of scared that if someone had a drone, like the Russians are using in Ukraine, like a Shahed, you could just run it into that thing and pretty much cause the plant to go into a meltdown. And they've been talking about, we kind of need to modernize that and fix that because there's a little bit of a problem. And, you know, they haven't. And that's been like 8 years ever since that was brought up. They haven't changed that. It's also had some problems. When we went up there to film, they had literally just a week before we had gone up there, had a fire on reactor number 3 on one of the pumps. I mean, it's a little bit dangerous. Not to sit here and talk nothing about the TVA. I feel that it's very important for the United States to increase funding to the nuclear regulatory agencies here in America and constantly have supervisors and inspectors at plants that are nearly at red flag or red status, I believe. I'm not sure if it's a red flag or red status, Matthew. Which one was it?
I can't remember for certain. I don't want to say in case it's something that's not true, but I'd have to go back and look. But, you know, another thing on top of safety and regulation, I think they need to up the security at these power plants. For example, this one right here, you can drive straight up to the reactor building. There's no gate. There's nothing but a sign. And that is definitely not secure. And they simply have, well, I won't go into that. I don't want to say too much information, but their security is lacking, to say the least.
Also, this picture was taken so long ago, the road actually drove through the power plant. Look at that. Like nowadays they actually have like this road that you have to take a right on called Shaw Road, and you go all the way around. Apparently the old road, which you can still see a little bit of right here, literally just drove right through the cooling towers of the power plant, which shows you how lax security must have been back then, considering you could do that. But yeah, you know, moving past the security thing and our whole problem with it when we tried to do our ordeal up there. Anyways. Oh, why were you complaining about that, man? Like, we're talking, it's the question segment. We're talking about our own experiences and stuff. Anyways, beyond that, it has a decent amount of safety issues, and I feel like there should be a regulatory commission in there at all times. And if we could have that implemented worldwide and have, you know, inspectors and regulatory people inside of Ukraine at their nuclear reactors and maybe inside of the occupied ones as well, I feel like that would be a very good step up in the right directions, particularly for safety. And so with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well. The poll fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And for our final poll, the third one, the question is, should Ukrainian locals that refuse to evacuate be forced to leave? It looks like 55% said no, let them choose regardless. 29% said yes, they must be taken for safety. And 16% said not sure, I'm undecided. Now, in this one, I'm going to have to go with the 29% that said they must be taken for their safety, because here's why. I'm under the belief that some people have to be pushed to get out of dangerous situations, and I think that would be an instance where it needs to happen. And also, by those people staying, they're posing a risk for Ukrainian forces to be, I guess, double guessing or double thinking where they're firing, because they don't know if they're going to hit a civilian or not. They don't know who's left behind. But also, isn't martial law declared in those regions?
Yes, martial law has been declared across all of Ukraine, and so the military.
Well, then
right
they
now
definitely have the authority to take them. Then.
Yeah, I would have to honestly say that the military is exercising a lot of restraint in not commanding these people to leave the area, and they're allowing them a choice. So, really, I wouldn't. I would have to remain undecided on that question. But one thing I will say is that the Ukrainian military has been incredibly generous with giving the leeway to these civilians and also adding an additional amount of burden to their forces by giving these people the option of whether they're going to leave or not. Because they could, of course, since it's martial law, simply declare that these people must be evacuated, and by law they will leave, or otherwise they'll be forcefully removed from the area and moved elsewhere. So, honestly, I got to say, that's huge credit to the Ukrainian military for even giving them a choice at this point in the war. And so with that, I hope that addresses the poll, and we are on to the next one.
All right, so that was our last poll. So we are now moving on to our super chat questions, and then we'll address our live chats. Up first, we have Mark Slava Ukraine, who put in a $125 super chat. And he comes in with the animal noises. And I thought it was Duncan VR for a minute, but it's Mark. He says, moo ba, quack meow, woof squeak, hiss, and happy birthday, enforcers, and congrats on the fundraising effort. It's awesome.
And thank you so much, Mark. Thank you for supporting this channel, because you're helping us to continue to survive, continue to cover this news until we get to the next fundraiser, and then the next one, and the next one until the war ends. And I've got to thank you so much for taking over Duncan VR for the night, throwing in the animal noises, and also congratulating us for that. I consider that to be a high honor and high praise, considering that we've raised over $700,000 in support of Ukraine. And I honestly think it's absolutely incredible that we've been able to do that so far. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the massive amount of support, Mark. It looks like you're in New Zealand again, so I hope you are having fun down there. That's a beautiful country. We've seen it before on Google Maps, and I gotta say, I'm really impressed. Really nice place. But with that, thank you so much once again. Thank you for enjoying our fundraiser efforts, and thank you, Mark, for being a channel legend and helping this channel to stay alive. You were one of the major people who helped that to remain possible, and I gotta thank you so much once again. Also, real quick, some people have been saying, I've seen this in the live chat, some people have been saying that I'm violating OPSEC with that nuclear power plant. I'm not, because the information I'm citing is public information put out by nuclear regulatory commissions and international nuclear agencies. So if it was an OPSEC thing, they wouldn't be publishing it as an official pamphlet for the whole world to read, just in case of y'all.
And also, we've refrained from saying a few details that would probably violate OPSEC because of our experience that we had. So we are holding back some info that would probably be sensitive.
And yeah, and also, yeah, but anyways, on top of that, if we dealt with the security and we're telling the story of what we personally dealt with, that's not really OPSEC, you know, because if we were disclosing things that we hardly saw and we're trying to see, that would be an OPSEC thing. But a security man driving up off the property up to you in a white truck isn't really an OPSEC thing. That's kind of like the most straightforward thing ever. You know, we could go into all the hypotheses and ideas of what was really back there and what kind of security they really had. But, you know, we're not going into that because that is OPSEC. We're just trying to tell the story of what we dealt with. But with that, we're on to the next one.
All right. And the next one goes to Beta Waves NY, who puts in a $100 donation and says, meanwhile, the AFK guy, quote unquote, I am in space.
Wait a minute. We have to find him again. I'm a cosmonaut. Wait a minute, hang on. Wait a minute, I just remembered this, Matthew. There's a song. I've got to find it. Yeah, I don't know if anyone's gonna know it. I don't know if anyone knows a lot of foreign military music, but let me pull this up. Yeah, if y'all know it, y'all are gonna love this reference. So let me find it. Okay, here we go. Oh god, this is what I'm thinking when you say he's in space. He's a cosmonaut in the Russian space program.
Заправлены планшеты, космические карты, и штурман уточняет последний раз маршрут.
Oh man.
It's Yuri Gagarin.
Is Yuri Gagarin the next hero of the space program? He need no space rocket to fly. He fly it with a mind. And so with that, also it's not copyrighted because that recording was actually made during the era of the Soviet Union, and also YouTube is not respecting Russian copyrights at the moment. And I know that was made by the Red Army Choir, so it's definitely not copyright. But with that. That is hilarious. That's what I was thinking when I was watching that the first time. And also, I saw some people riffing on him earlier, and it was hilarious. I was trying to remember one of them up until right now, but I couldn't. But y'all were coming up with some great ones. But with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you so much for the support, Beta Waves NY. New York, I think? And thank you so much for helping this channel to keep on running. Not only was that hilarious to go back to and joke on, but you were helping this channel out a whole load with your support and helping us to keep the lights on behind the scenes, and I got to thank you massively for that. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $50 donation from Magic Sky Girl, who says, here's a toast to Enforcer Matt and his YouTube channel. Nice job, Matthew. And thank you, Magic Sky Girl, for that. She also says, here's a toast to the Enforcer because he's just so awesome. Here's a toast to the beloved LSA. Here's a toast to Ukraine. And a toast to Patriot Missiles. Now I'm drunk.
I was about to say, I'm sloshed after that one. I'm going to be falling out, but I got to thank you so much for the support, Magic Sky Girl, and thank you. And you know what, Magic Sky Girl, you're always asking for this one. I'm going to do it in your honor, and thanks for the super chat. I got to thank you so much for the super chat. It helps this channel to keep on running. It helps Mike Tyson to keep everything running behind the scenes, because this fight night here on WNBC, and I got to make sure that we are able to deliver the hardcore punches that Mike Tyson is always known for. And so thank you so much once again for the support. Thank you so much for the toast. And of course, the toast mess with my metabolism because alcohol is not that great for it. But you don't understand the pain I'm going through. I've got to drink to get rid of the pain. But with that, I thank you so much once again for the support and toast everything. And so with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you so much, Magic Sky Girl, for being the legend that you are and the Lead Spring Army member that you are. Giant Apple, respect. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
Do you remember the like blooper reel of him trying to say all the different cable networks?
Yes.
He's like Salmon's Cablevision, and like he kept saying all the wrong stuff.
I'm Mike Tyson, and we're in Japan, and it's Magic Mike. I just forgot my lines. Hi guys, it's Mike Tyson. I'm here in Japan, and this man just beep beep, and they just started cussing, and they bleeped it out. Yeah, I remember that. I wish we could pull that up, but I don't know if that's copyrighted by the network or not. So, anyways, I still thank you so much once again for the support, Magic Girl. Glad you enjoyed the Mike Tyson. He hasn't come out in a while. I'm sure the Mike haters are about to be out in a second. Like, I hate it. He sucks. But with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you so much once again. Maybe we'll have Mike Tyson on as a guest if we ever make a podcast. Have you ever killed a man before? But with that, we're on to the next one.
Okay, so up next we have a $25 super chat from Fly Eagles Fly, who says, Enforcer, the Eagles won again. Here's another 25. They are 12 wins, 1 loss for the season. Off topic, how exciting is the Fusion Breakthrough? Any thoughts?
Fusion Breakthrough. Let me check the news on that. Fusion.
I heard about that, but I don't know exactly what it was.
Scientists achieve nuclear fusion. Oh my god! Really? 19 hours ago? That was it? Oh god, screw you, New York Times. Hang on. I think WWMT won't make us have to pay, will it? Let's see. The result is called inertial confinement fusion and creates a viable means of generating carbon-free energy, according to researchers. The project generates energy the same way the sun does, without the concern of nuclear waste or carbon dioxide. Holy moly. Wow, that is insane.
That is crazy. I don't know if it's one of these like discoveries that actually like has a practical application, or is it just theoretical?
Let's see here. It says the potential is there to meet our energy needs. The fuel for fusion is abundant. It's found in the ocean, so there's no limit. There's no practical limit on how much energy we could make if this were economical and practical, so that we could replace fossil fuel burning and still get our energy that runs our society. It makes much less of an impact on global warming, otherwise known as climate change, because I literally took a whole class on that, and they don't call it global warming anymore. They call it climate change, because if it gets hotter in one area, it melts the ice in one area, which cools it, and then that area moves south, which creates a colder spot in one spot, and that's why the weather just gets all jacked up everywhere. But anyways, moving on from that, that is really bizarre. That's just insane. Also, Takis are one of the most intense snacks, if y'all didn't know. But let me find some more. This is actually stuff I really love to hear about. I can't believe I actually didn't hear about it. We'll go to CNN for a minute. We're going to suspend the fact that they largely don't know what they're talking about in anything, and we're just going to read it. So, nuclear fusion, we know what it is, but we're wanting to find out. It's the first time scientists have ever successfully produced this instead of breaking even, as past experiments have done. Wouldn't that be cool, Matthew? Maybe we could reach out to the scientist, the lead scientist of this project, and see if we can make a standalone interview video or a live stream with them and ask all kinds of interesting questions about it, because this is the kind of stuff I love to cover. This is really cool. And maybe we can find out some questions that a lot of viewers and myself have, like, how much does this cost to operate? Is this economical right now? How much power did it produce? Is this scalable? And stuff like that. Because that would be, those would be interesting questions that I would love to ask. And maybe y'all would like to hear it too. I don't know. It can be an energy source if you're not getting out more energy than you're putting in. Let's see. Prior breakthroughs have been important, but if it's not the same thing as generating energy, that can one day be used on a larger scale. Interesting. Scientists are how to produce more energy on a much larger scale. And it appears, right now it appears that the answer, according to CNN, is that it's cost ineffective. The amount of cost it takes to produce energy is a little bit too much. But give it time, now that they've made the major breakthrough of making fusion possible, maybe they, well, it's not maybe, it's a definite, it just takes time of making this economic. At one point, in case y'all didn't know, the ballpoint pens that a load of y'all use these days and are cheap throwaways, you know, they're like 20 cents. Back in the day, back in the 30s, those things cost $10,000 a pop. But a guy in France made a factory and found out a way to mass produce the small little ball bearing at the end of a ballpoint pen, and that's what made them become the most prevalent pen and the cheapest one as well. So it's not really a question of, is this possible to make it affordable? It's a question of, how long will it be until this is an affordable form of energy that starts to replace everything? I think that really, if this is possible, and this is safe, this will probably be the future of all energy going forward, especially considering that it just pretty much runs on seawater. You could, hell, you could keep the whole entire world running with electricity forever. Honestly, this is a really incredible breakthrough. I think this is better than anything else we've seen in the past 10 years, maybe even the past century so far. So I'm really excited to see where this goes from here. And so I got to thank you so much for the support, and let me know this. I hadn't even heard of it. This is the first time I've heard of it, and I'm really excited about this. And so with that, thank you so much once again. Thank you for letting us take a look at this for a second. And I hope y'all are very hyped up about this as well as me, because in the future, we may actually see that the entire world runs on fusion energy. Is that neat or what? That's been something that everyone's been hypothesizing about since the beginning of atomic fission. And now we're finally seeing that fusion is really possible in our lifetimes. That's just incredible. But with that, we are on to the next one. A huge shout out to the team that made this possible. We don't know who they are. We don't know their names exactly. We haven't looked into the story enough. But these guys deserve a lot of credit for what they've done. That's a huge advancement for the world, and it will become a very important thing a couple of decades down the road. And so with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for that support and sharing that with us.
Yes, indeed. And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Jay Spoon, who says, what are your thoughts on the Air Force being willing to send older model Reaper drones to Ukraine?
I think that's a pretty good idea. Reaper drones are, as far as we know, just a little less capable than the Bayraktar, and if they're just a little less capable than the Bayraktar, then they're going to do fairly well, incredibly well, as a matter of fact. And so I would say that's a pretty good idea to send over the Predators, I believe they are, instead of the... Well, did you say Reapers or Predators?
Reaper drones.
Oh, the Reapers. I think the Reapers are the ones that we still have in service. The Predators were entirely phased out. So I would say, oh yeah, because I was actually for some reason thinking about the Predator. The Reapers are on par with Bayraktars. They're just made by the United States. So I would say definitely. I think that that those Reapers would do an incredibly good job. Even if they're a little bit older, they probably have a pretty decent amount of modern parts and equipment in it, and they're very capable. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does answer the question fairly well. As long as it doesn't violate U.S. national security in sending those things over, I'm all for it. And so with that, thank you so much once again. Hope that answered the question, and we are on to the next one.
Right. So up next, we have a $20 super chat from Landlubber, who says, good job, guys, and Slava Ukraine.
And thank you so much for the support, Landlubber, for helping this channel to keep on running, because y'all's support day by day, each and every day, is what makes this channel possible to run. Without y'all, it wouldn't be possible. And y'all help us to continue to do what y'all think is a great job. I don't know if it's a great job or not. I'll allow y'all to decide that. I take the praise, though, and I thank y'all so much for it because it means a lot to me. But it's up to y'all. Is this a good show or not? Is it worth supporting or not? That's up to y'all. But I got to thank y'all so much once again for all the kind words. And thank you so much, Landlubber, for supporting us as well and helping us to keep this thing running. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $20 super chat. Once again from Panama Floyd, who says, AN-2s, I only thought they were only used to take seeds to Siberian farmland during the summer.
Good point. Antonov 2s are actually used for a lot more than that in many former Soviet republics. These are actually still used for passenger transport. You heard me right. Passengers ride this thing, and it's common in Russia. That's how backwards they are. You know, in America, the worst thing that you'll fly on is like a Boeing 717. I'll show you all that right here as a comparison. Boeing 717, probably one of the oldest jets. Still, actually, it's not that old. For some reason, I thought it was a lot older than that. I thought these things were like around in the 60s, but apparently, these were around in the 90s? I find that hard to believe. I don't know why, but that just seems far-fetched. Anyways, the worst you'll probably fly on is one of these, Boeing 717. About the smallest commuter plane that we have. It's really more of just like a jump jet from point to point. Well, at least that's how they're used. A lot of these fly out of the Montgomery Regional Airport, which is really the first place I saw commercial aircraft. So I remember these things vividly and looking into them and researching them and all that. But anyways, that's about the worst you'll fly on. In Russia, the worst you'll fly on is this thing. It's loud, it shakes, it's terrible. It can only carry like 10 or 14 people. It's a very small amount. Maybe a little bit of luggage, and it takes forever to get anywhere because it's just a biplane. It's horrendous to think that, really. And they're not just used for transporting seeds to Siberia. They're also used in the Russian military. If we go Russian Air Force aircraft, go here and we take a look at this. List of active Russian military aircraft. And we scroll down, and we'll find the Antonov 2 in here somewhere. Let me find it. Where is it? Come on, show yourself. The Antonov 12. There's the 12. There's the 22. 26. 72. How come the Antonov 2 isn't on this list? Because we know that the Russians have a decent amount of them. Let me click out of that here. And let me go. Primary. You know what's funny? They say that only North Korea, China, and Cuba uses these, but we have satellite pictures that did not show on stream tonight that shows that these Antonov 2s have been piled up at a Russian airbase right outside of the Ukrainian border. So we know that they're in Russian service, but for some reason we can't find any actual data or information on that. But they're used for a lot in Russia. These things are used literally for everything. Crop dusters, passenger aircraft, freight aircraft, you name it, they're still doing it. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, Panama Floyd. And thank you so much once again for the support. And I honestly can't believe it's a smart strategy to use these cheap, expendable aircraft to pretty much soak up the surface-to-air missile defense systems that Ukraine has, if they're going to do it. But at the same time, it's also bizarre that they're that backwards that they have this many of this kind of aircraft to use for that. Really, honestly, Matthew, I was just thinking the U.S. Air Force could do the same thing with Cessna 172s.
Oh. They could
get those ugly little freaks out of the sky. I hate these things. I don't know why. Like, you know, it's like your normal little aircraft to fly for fun. I just hate how they look, though. I think there's so many better looking aircraft out there, and this has got to be.
I don't think they're that bad looking.
I think they are. I got to be honest with you. There's so many little aircraft out there now. I just don't like this one. I think there's a lot better out there. This is like a small car with wings.
Yeah, but for like the cost of this one, you can't beat it.
Oh yeah, really? You want me to pull up Cessna 172s for sale? You want to know how much these things are?
I mean, they're going to be like 100,000, 150,000, but still, like for airplanes, that's not that bad.
Let's see here. Call for price. This one, a 1980, $165,000. Don't lowball me.
For only $1,000 a month.
Oh, wait a minute. Let's see here. $295,000 for 2008. Come on. That's why I hate these things. They're ugly, and not only that, even old ones cost a lot of money. You know, like, I don't like this. Like, that's why I really don't like them, is because they're way too expensive for what they are. But anyways, the Olim drops that the 172 is a practical shape. It is a practical shape. I still think it's an ugly shape. Like for example, the Honda Civic is a practical shape. But I think everyone can admit, well, actually, the modern ones look really nice, but the older ones, like the 1980.
Wow. Look at that 2022 gray one right there below the blue one you're looking at.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
That's actually pretty sharp looking.
Before I rat on the Honda Civics, I gotta give a disclaimer. The brand new ones look great. The old ones, however, from like 1990 to 1980, they are horrendous. Like, they are terrible. These, though, I actually saw a lot of people when I used to work at Publix and places like that. Like, managers would have these. They would have, like, the sport model, and honestly, it looks like a Nissan GTR, and I thought they looked really cool. I was really blown away when I found out it was a Honda. But older Honda Civics, oh, they're practical, yeah, but they're not the best looking thing on the road. You know, you could get all kinds of other stuff that looks better. That's not to rat on anyone, though, that has a Honda Civic, because, you know, they still work. They get you from point A to point B, which is what a car is for. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support, and I hope that answers the question fairly well.
All right, so up next, we have a $20 super chat from BC Skyman. And I think BC has gotten off for the night, and sadly, we always end up getting around to his super chat by the time he gets off for the night. So sadly, BC didn't get to hear it, but BC Skyman, if you're listening to this tomorrow, thank you very much for your support once again. And sadly, he didn't leave a comment. But Enforcer, what say you?
I've got to thank you so much, BC Skyman, for the support. I saw that super sticky you threw in, and I got to thank you so much, because while you're not watching the stream right now for us to address your super chat, you, of course, mean a lot to us. You've been around here forever. You have family and relatives over there. You were one of the original people that watched this stream and believed in this channel for us to cover the news. And for that, I got to thank you so much, because it really means a lot to me that people like you, incredible, nice people, and we've got to know you a fairly good bit, have hung around and stuck with us and believed in this channel. And I got to thank you so much, because it means a lot to us that you continue to support us, continue to back us up, and continue to watch our news. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does answer the comment fairly well, the super chat fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And also, everyone, yes, the Honda Civic, it does last forever. I've never seen one not last forever. And so with that, we are on to the next one. But I just want y'all to know real quick, I'm not ratting on Honda Civics, you know, because they perform and they do their job. It's just that I'm talking about the style. And, you know, style is one thing, because, you know, you can drive a Bugatti, you can drive a Honda Civic. They both do the same thing. You're both going to be stuck in traffic and both driving at the speed limit in either of them. But still, one does look better than the other. So with that, we are on to the next one. I didn't want anyone to feel like, though, I'm like directly attacking people with Honda Civics, because that's not what I'm trying to do. But with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a very generous $200 super chat from Silver Earth, who says, congratulations on getting into law school. Thanks for keeping the commercials off and providing thoroughly interesting content.
And thank you so much for the support, Silver Earth. And thank you so much. I gotta thank you a whole load for helping out this channel and helping us keep this thing running. And also, thank you for congratulating us on getting into law school. That was a big deal for both Matthew and me. We actually got the packets today. They gave us a little packets with, like, the intro, like, thing and everything in it. It's like, you know, telling you, like, what kind of scholarship you got and all that kind of stuff. It was really cool. And it was really nice, too. It was, like, all laminated and glossy and stuff. You know, like, very small details, but very neat and very officiated. But anyways, I got to thank you so much for enjoying that the commercials are off. That's one thing that I always like to point out on this channel, is that we don't, of course, support, and this is something I always find important to point out, support is completely up to y'all. Y'all can decide if this channel is worth y'all's while to support, and then at that point, y'all can even decide how much we're worth supporting to y'all. It could be $1, $2, it could be all the way up to 200, like you, Silver Earth. Any amount that y'all want to support us. And I think that's incredibly important, because there are channels out there who do other things, like they force you to pay for memberships to talk in their live chat certain times. Or there's people out there who just do memberships in general, which I kind of feel is kind of like a little lame, you know, because it makes it too gamey looking to me. And then there is, I mean, like, hell, then there's people who run ads, and there's people who ask for super chats on top of that and ask to support a Patreon. And we do have a Patreon. I have to say this though. I can't really rat on Patreon at all because I have a Patreon, but it's to support video projects because we want to divide up like what goes to where. Like if you like the videos, y'all can support the Patreon for the videos. If y'all enjoy the live stream, that's what the super chats are for because it helps Matthew and me to work on that. But you know, I try and make sure that we don't go overboard with what we need for support because it all helps. Support helps incredibly, but I don't ever want anyone to come on here and feel like, you know, like on some other channels, like we're trying to suck like the blood and the life force out of you watching this channel and just like pester the hell out of you for anything like ad time for you to watch an ad or for you to get a membership or something like that. We don't like to run it like that. And I got to thank you so much for enjoying that because every once in a while I feel like I don't know if people like realize that like we don't run ads or something or not, but I find it to be a big deal and a huge reprieve, especially when you can click on something on YouTube and it doesn't have double unskippable ads. I'm sorry that our videos have that though, because we found out that YouTube will promote our streams the same with ads on or not, because we actually ran one stream back in the day with ads on. It was the very first time we were monetized. The very first day we ran a monetized stream, it didn't promote it anymore, and also it was very annoying for me to get on my own stream and have to watch an ad, so I turned them off. But they will promote videos more if we run ads on them, so that's why we run ads on our videos, but we don't run ads here because AdSense doesn't really make that much. So rather than it just being a nuisance, it really just helps to promote it, but not the live stream. And so I got to thank you so much once again, Silver Earth, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, and also the congratulations and the high praise as well. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support.
All right, and up next, we have a $20 super chat from Santiago Flores, who says, good evening. The Ukrainians would have to get those AN-2 Colts on the ground or used their slow-moving aircraft like L-39 to engage these biplane transports, not to be used their ground-to-air missiles. Cheers.
Can you reread that one again real quick?
Yes, let me... There we go. So back to that one from Santiago. Good evening. The Ukrainians would have to get those AN-2 Colts on the ground or used their slow-moving aircraft like L-39 to engage these biplane transports, not to use their ground-to-air missiles. And cheers.
And thank you so much for the support. And I would agree with that. That's largely true. I would also, Sky Gunner said, while running for president in 1040, I'm running for the King of England at the Battle of Hastings. Anyways, I would say that that is a very good strategy. The Ukrainians need to try and ensure that they do not use up any valuable and highly expensive surface-to-air missile defense systems, engaging the potential Antonov 2 drones that may be used by the Russians. I think that that's even more so of a call for Western countries to provide any kind of air support that they have. Stingers could probably be sent over in a much higher amount. We could also probably see that air support in general, like more Gepards and more ammo, should be provided. Maybe even open up another ammunition plant in Germany to produce the Gepard ammo, so that way Swiss neutrality doesn't really get in the way of things in that regard. I think that would be a very good step in the right direction, because considering that the possibility of the threat and the historic potential that it has been used before and can easily be done again is on the horizon, I think the Ukrainians should be proactive instead of reactive to that threat, because if they're reactive to it, by that point, they've probably expended all of their surface-to-air missile defenses, and they're once again vulnerable to Russian cruise missile attacks. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, and I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. I got to thank you so much once again for the support, and I hope that answered the question fairly well. Also, Matthew, real quick, if you don't mind, can we go out of order for a second?
Yes.
All right, so I want to address a $10 super chat from Avari Mandabratis, who threw in a very interesting question and said, mindful of OPSEC, do you have any World War I reenacting photos of you that you can share on stream? Sadly, not really, because the reenacting group I'm a part of has a particular name, and they're in a particular location, and there are very crazy people out there, and I don't know if I would be putting them in jeopardy, and I don't know if they would want to be on camera, because really all the pictures I'm in reenacting have them in it, so I don't know if they want to be, you know, like exposed to a massive audience right now or not. I could probably ask them. And also on top of that, I don't know if I would like went reenacting again, you know, because they kind of like publicize where they're going. I don't know if I went reenacting again if people would try and like hunt me down and like slaughter me like in the middle of like a reenacting thing in front of like families and stuff. So I don't know for now. I'll have to ask them on that. But I thank you so much once again for the support for Amanda Bros. That's how it stands right now, but that may change in the future, and I may see if that is possible, maybe in a separate video or sometime in the future. But with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to stay alive.
All right, and up next, we have a $20 super chat from BC Skyman once again, and he left a comment on this one and said, I want to give a final update on Roy. He has decided to go back to the United States. He has fought bravely for 6 months, and he has done more than most men can imagine. I am so thankful that he lived through this, and glory Ukraine. And I'm glad to hear that Roy is safe.
And I thank you so much for the support, BC Skyman. And it's great to hear that Roy has rounded out his story in Ukraine and has returned home safe. Of course, 6 months of service in the military is an incredibly long time, and something that he really deserves a lot of praise for. And while he's returned, he's still a hero, and anyone who's served on the front lines to defend Ukraine has really done an incredibly good job and deserves a high amount of praise wherever they go and wherever they are around. And so, thank you so much once again for the support, BC Skyman, and allowing us to wrap up the story of Roy in our books. He's been over there. He's been over there for a long time, almost as over half the time that this stream has run, he's been over there, and we've always been hearing little updates here and there about Roy, and it's good to know that he's finally returned, and he's safe, and that his chapter in the story of the war in Ukraine will come to an end. Make sure to tell him to watch the stream, because, and let him know that we've been talking about him on here a pretty good bit, because he's about the closest we've gotten to a frontline soldier in Ukraine, rather than Operator Starsky and the Flashback, which we've also shouted out on the stream before. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again, BC Skyman, for the support.
All right, and real quick, while I grab this last super chat right here, I want to address the poll that I put up a while ago, and the question was, which innovation do you want first? It looks like 69%, which is the majority, say fusion energy. 13% said normalized space travel, 9% said full quantum computing, and 8% said artificial intelligence. Now, for me, one thing I do not want is full artificial intelligence. I personally think that's dangerous, and it could lead to some very bad things. And honestly, what would be the purpose of it? We humans need to use our own brains and come up with things ourselves. Fusion energy, that would be a really good one. I think full quantum computing only got 9%, but that's a really big one that I would have voted for personally. And for fun, it would be nice if space travel was accessible. But if I had to pick one, I would say quantum computing. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that if I was to pick one of them, I would say that fusion reactors is probably the best invention of them all, because if you ever look through history, the number one thing that always comes first before everything is energy production of some kind, whether it be heating in the past or up in the present day, electrical production, because with electricity, everything else in the modern world becomes possible. And if we're able to produce a high amount of incredibly clean energy, if we made fusion reactors, this is a little bit of a problem though, because I was just thinking about this. For countries that are not allowed to have nuclear material, they are going to be plumb out of luck, and they're still going to have to use fossil fuels and so on. So, well, I don't know, because I don't know if fusion reactors are different. I don't know if they can explode like a fission reactor can. I think that they always say, I don't know, let me pull that up. Is fusion reactions dangerous? I'm sure that our folks at Shell have put out the fusion process is inherently safe. In a fusion reactor, there will only be a limited amount of fuel, less than 4 grams at any given moment. The reaction relies on the continuous input of fuel. If there is any perturbation in this process, and the reaction ceases immediately. Oh, well, that is a lot better than fusion, where the whole thing can blow up. That is really nice, actually. I would say that that's the best thing ever. If we were able to create fusion, space travel would probably become infinitely easier. You could probably make a fusion reactor in space and have not really a launch vessel that could take off from the surface of the Earth and then travel to the surface of Mars. You could probably have something that could pick up objects from the surface of the Earth, travel into orbit near Mars, be refueled, and then conduct a trip back. That would be very interesting in a concept, and it would be very beneficial in creating really all technology. I think that energy production should definitely be something that's prioritized. And certainly considering that it seems as though, and, you know, and we're not going to get into the political conversation because there's some people that say, you know, the fossil fuels are bad and climate change is the thing, and there's people who say that it isn't. We're not going to get into that because we're not a political channel. But one thing that is for certain is that eventually the oil that we use to power the entire world pretty much, and the coal, will eventually run out or will become too expensive to extract. And while, and this is true, there is practically an unlimited source of oil and coal that is under the Earth's crust. However, that does not mean that it's always going to be economical and cheap to get to it and grab it. At some point, we're going to have to start drilling so deep into the ground for the oil that it'll become too expensive to do, or we'll have to start digging so deep for the coal that we're going to be creating massive pits in the Earth's surface that are so deep it creates almost like a vortex of air, and then that becomes a whole problem of its own then. So we have to try and find some way to start moving away from that for one reason or another. And I think that fusion energy is a win-win. It seems to be incredibly safe. It produces a massive amount of clean energy. It's a win-win for everyone, really. And hopefully in the future it could be made so cheap that energy is practically, hell, I mean, like, worthless. It'll be like a penny for a megawatt. You know, that would be incredibly neat, although that's not happening anytime now. It may happen in the future. And the final note is that would completely break away the United States and Western countries at the start from any reliance on OPEC. I think that would be the best thing ever. We would put a death knell on OPEC forever because they wouldn't have any markets to sell to in the West. Waiting for a comment on that.
Interesting. Is that a question?
Oh no, I was sitting there waiting for a comment on that because I was like, you know, that was like the bombshell right there, is that OPEC would die. The only people that they would be setting a monopoly to would be themselves at that point. There wouldn't be any Western markets to strong arm if they need more oil and they start trying to limit the amount of supply. That would be over. We wouldn't rely on it anymore.
Interesting.
And so with that, I hope that answers the poll fairly well, and that was a really cool one. But then again, all of them are really great inventions. I can't wait to see. I know that all of them will be achieved in my lifetime. I got high hopes for the progress that people are able to achieve. It's boundless at this point, and I can't wait to see all these things come to fruition at one point or another. Maybe when I'm president, maybe one of them will actually become a mainstay, because they're all in their infancy right now. But maybe a colony on Mars will exist by the time I'm president, hopefully. Maybe fusion reactors will be something that can be pioneered by my administration, perhaps. Who knows? But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
Right. And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Panama Floyd, who says, "I steal this drone, mama. More fun than washing machine. Take question from chat."
And I thank you so much for the support. And he's still throwing the play. Oh shit, there's another one up there. And so that we're going to get to the live chat. And thank you so much once again for the support.
All right. So our first live chat of the night, sponsored by Panama Floyd, goes to Ryan Shipovich, who says, "Is it possible to make the new Russian defense lines on your map like the new trench networks and Dragon's Teeth?"
Oh, that's a good question. I would have to find the specific locations where the Putler line is and the Dragon's Teeth as well. We don't really know where exactly they are, but they're somewhere in between Bakhmut and Popasna from what we know, but we don't know what part they're at. So with that, I thank you so much for the support. We'll look into that. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And our next one goes to Commander Prankster, who puts in a $20 donation and says, "Keep up the good work."
And thank you so much for the support, and we will keep up the good work thanks to your support. Also, you may have heard that little thing pop around. Just in case y'all don't know, I like a lot of people, I have a little tick. One second, I'll explain to y'all what it is. I actually get bottle caps from when I drink water in stream, and I get quarters, and I like stick the quarters inside the bottle caps, and I kind of like fiddle those around in my hand like the Mutiny on the Cane captain, you know, Humphrey Bogart, when you're sitting there, "I was trying to figure out where the strawberries went," you know, and I'd like fiddle like the marble balls around my hand, but they're bottle caps with quarters in them, just in case y'all are wondering what that was. But anyways, on to the next. Did we answer that one?
Keep up the good work.
Oh, and thank you so much, and we will, while I keep on moving around my little plastic bottle caps. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one is a $20 super chat from Earl Grey, who does not leave a comment.
tea.
Earl Grey, hot.
Thank you so much for the support, Earl Grey. And thank you so much for helping this thing to keep running. If it wasn't for supporters like y'all, this wouldn't be possible. And I've got to thank y'all each and every time y'all send in support, because it really does mean a lot. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And I really, honestly, now I'm kind of getting a hankering for Earl Grey. It's a pretty good tea. But anyways, we're on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Mad Mac, who says, have any provisions been set up to get the M777 artillery donated to Ukraine maintained?
Yes, there has. We have actually been taking them back in Poland and reboring and rebarreling them completely sometimes already. So there is a pretty intricate little supply line that we have going on, and they have been using it so far to great effect from what we can tell. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
The next question goes to Siri, who puts in a $10 donation and says, for your polka dot pajama fund, please take a question from the chat.
And thank you so much for the polka dot pajama fund. And we will make sure to take a question from the live chat as well. And thank you so much for giving your question to someone in the live chat. I'm sure that a lot of people appreciate that. That's a really nice thing that everyone does these days. And I haven't seen that trend I haven't really seen that trend anywhere on YouTube. I haven't ever seen anyone throw in a super chat and be like, hey, give that over to someone else. But, of course, the Lee Spring Army is the epitome of kindness. So we will give that over to a live chat. So with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and the question goes to Sean Tiz, who says, Enforcer, do you think that those planes fly so slow it should be easy to discern them from cruise missiles?
Antonov 2. They do fly very slow. I'm going to find you the top speed here. The cruise speed is 118 miles per hour, but that is so slow that might be considered a Shahed 136. Although its radar signature will be much larger than the Shahed, it still might be considered one due to its speed and pretty much its straightforward direction of flight, considering you'll be flying in a straight line. So, yes, it would not be considered, a cruise missile or anything, but it could be considered a drone, and they would shoot that down because, of course, that is a priority target for the most part. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question fairly well, and thank you once again for the support. Also, I like to see that everyone once in a while in the live chat now is like, yes, Enforcer for president. I can't wait to eventually become the president. Of course, that's very self-assuming of myself. I don't know if I would become one, and I don't want to be that person who just believes it until I live a lie, but hopefully I will become president, and hopefully I can do some great things for the country when I am president. And everyone always says that, and then everyone always lives it down. Anyways, we're on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Joe Little. And Joe, thank you very much for the support. I'll be totally honest. I'm a little paranoid to read that off just because I don't want to be misconstrued by reading that off. I sent it to the Enforcer for him to read if he wants to read it.
Is it on Discord?
Yes.
1 second, let me open that up on my phone. Let me go over here. Yeah, well, I mean, Joe Little, I thank you for the support, and I would cover that. However, I feel like that would have a little bit of a political tone on it because that person recently has started to become a little bit of a political figure based off of his comments. He's no longer just the gallivanting businessman of yore. He's now become highly political, especially based off of what he's been saying recently. So now we really can't talk about that guy. He's kind of thrown himself out of the whole window thing for us. Like, he's a political guy now, so we can't really touch him. So with that, I thank you so much for the support, Joe Little. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, at least the best we can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from White Lightning 777, who says, aren't Patriot missile systems integrated with F-16s, F-15s, and Abrams tanks to reduce chances of friendly fire? Hopefully the tanks and planes are sent out next.
They are not. As far as we know from the invasion of Iraq, back in 2003, they weren't, because the Patriots actually managed to shoot down an F-18 and a Tornado from the RAF. So, and also it ended up killing all the pilots involved. It killed the 2 in the Tornado and the 1 pilot in the F-16. I have no idea. From what I don't know if they were Pack 2s or Pack 3s, a hit to kill, or I guess you could say like a proxy fuse kind of thing. But I don't know how the hell, like, where did it hit? Like, what in the world was going on? Because none of them lived. All of them died. And that's just bizarre to me. But anyways, to answer that question, from what we know in the 2003 invasion of Iraq, they're apparently not, because you can actually friendly fire aircraft and shoot them down and have no idea until you actually shoot them down and then identify the remains of the aircraft as being a allied or coalition aircraft, and then it's too late. So with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And once again, that ties into the training of the air defense crews and also coordination with the Air Force to know when friendly aircraft are in the sky and when to fire and when not to fire. And so with that, if anyone knows any different though, let us know, because that's what I'm working off of, but that may be different now. They may have implemented some new additional technology in between 2013 and now. That's about a 20-year gap. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for the support.
Right, and the next one goes to Cliff H, who puts in a $10 donation and says, Enforcer, we pass over videos and news too graphic to include in stream. Please consider creating a second channel to publish those for the LSA, a sacrificial channel where age restriction is expected.
Ooh. Honestly, I was thinking on that one about... I mean, if you want to know where you can find most of that stuff, there is a media NSFW tab on our Discord page where people are allowed to show those kinds of videos. So if you want to, you can join our Discord, link in the description, and you can go there and see it. The thing about that, the thing about making a channel like that is, one, if it's associated with me and it's a secondary channel, getting enough age restrictions can end up getting me community guideline strikes and screwing over this channel. My AdSense could also be revoked, which would screw me over permanently. So I can't really do that, and also it would be a lot of effort for really no one to see, because if it's age restricted, they don't promote it on their algorithm. People have to go and seek it out and find it, and that takes a lot of effort, so there's no possibility of potential or growth or anything. It would be like a massive amount of effort to reach like a dead-end wall, and most people who would probably want to see that stuff would never even see it to begin with to even look at it. So the best I could recommend would be the NSFW tab on Discord, or you can go on Reddit and you can find them yourselves fairly easily. You know, they're just out and about there, really. But with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And also be careful what you wish for, because a lot of people always want to see the gore, because, you know, people are just naturally attracted to that kind of stuff with the gore and all. But once you see it, I've gotten very used to it over 10 months, but once you see it, you can't really ever unsee it. Like, you know, people's heads halfway gone, and, you know, like people's heads crushed like a cartoon, you know, like where it's just flat as a pancake. Like, you can't really get over that stuff once you see it, and it really messes with you a little bit. So while you may want to see that, I don't know if you've seen that stuff before, always be careful with that. Always be careful with what you wish for, because sometimes that isn't the best stuff to see. And that's also why I filter it out a lot, even on here, even when it gets somewhat questionable and a little bit too graphic. Usually we get that stuff off. But with that, we are on to the next one. I hope that does address that fairly well.
Right, and up next, big shout out to Misty Riley for putting in a $10 donation. However, did not leave a comment, but thank you, Misty, for that support, and it helps us to keep the lights on over here. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Tim Q, who says, thank you guys for your work almost every day of the week. And thank you, Tim, for the support.
And thank you, Tim, for the good support that you help us out with every once in a while, helping this channel to keep running. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be able to keep up the good work we're doing. And so thank you so much for allowing us to keep the lights on, helping us to pay our bills, and also keep our stomachs full. I actually went, it's real quick to tell y'all, I actually had a fun day today. I got up early, and before I made that video that I did today, I actually went to lunch with a friend, and the coolest thing ever, I took him and taught him how to shoot a gun. Took him to a shooting range, went and rented an AR-15, and showed him how it works, and he went from being pretty scared of guns to he thought they were really cool. So if that's a redemption story, well, not really, it's what it was redeeming, but if that's a story of any, if you haven't, make sure to find yourself a friend that knows what they're doing and is very safe, and go out there and try it if you haven't. It's fun. It's a neat little hobby to have, and it's always just a new experience. Worth trying, in my opinion, but, you know, that's just me. But anyways, I had a really fun day today, and I got to thank you so much once again for the support and allowing us to continue to do this, and also allowing me that one moment, like, that was like the first time ever that I've gotten out of the house and really done anything meaningful in like 3 weeks. Beyond that, I just get out to go get food or run errands or something like that. That was the first time I had some fun. And so with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you so much once again for the support, Tim.
Right, and moving on to moving on to our next one, we have a $7 super chat from Roy CC07, who says they had 24 tank losses yesterday. Check the GFSIS Rondelli Russian Military Digest. They update daily reports as well as maps with minor changes.
And I thank you so much for the support. And we did check that out before. And I will make sure to try and check that out off stream. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, Roy, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Dean London, who puts in a $5 donation and says, UK here, I love some fish and chips, but what you guys eat over there as fast food?
Ooh, wait a minute, is he British?
Yes, UK.
Oh, fish and chips. Y'all have the vinegar tasting oil that's not really vinegar oil at those fish and chip shops. What? I like it. I like it. It was good. What? You don't like it? I liked it.
Nah, I'll pass.
Anyways, since you have not heard of American fast food, also I would love to know more about what y'all eat for fast food, because it seemed that it was very sparse over there. So what do y'all really call fast food beyond the fish and chips? There's just got to be a little bit of variety over
Macca's.
there. Macca's. I think that's an Australian thing more so, but anyways, in America, fast food options are limitless and really the go-to food option for many Americans. I'll show you around Birmingham and show you some of the ones that we have. So, let's see, one of the big go-to coffee places. You want coffee, Starbucks is usually the go-to for most people. You can get all kinds of fruit drinks, usually seasonal sometimes, like salted caramel and pumpkin spice, all that kind of stuff. Looks like this on the inside. Really a coffee place, but you can buy a couple of little snacks here and there, like a spinach feta wrap, probably one of their best things on the menu. Other places, this one's a little bit more of a small one here in the South called Jack's. Jack's is a pretty interesting restaurant, kind of in the southern food arena, a little bit. They sell, you know, all kinds of sandwiches for the most part. We call them, well, these are burgers. This is a burger, but this is called a chicken sandwich, although it uses burger buns, which makes no sense. Also fries. Almost everything in America comes with a side of fries. That is the common side for really anyone. Potatoes are a very common staple as a side dish for anything. They also sell southern breakfast food at Jack's, like chicken wings, biscuits, green beans. Never eat fast food green beans. I don't find them to be that good. And mashed potatoes, once again, kind of questionable. Let's see, moving through. I'm trying to go, like, give a quick rundown of this. Let me find.
And yes, we do have Five Guys down here, by the way.
Yeah. Let me run down here.
It's just overpriced.
Because
That's all.
So let's see here. Yeah, that's not fast food. I was about to show Jim and Nick's. That's not fast food. That's just Fatback. Zaxby's is a very interesting one. This is a fast food restaurant that serves chicken wings. You can get them with the bones or boneless. And they come in all kinds of flavors. You can get like extremely spicy wings or not really spicy wings. It's really up to you. The customizability there of the wings is pretty extensive, but the sides are pretty limited. The bread, though, is killer. Also, they have a decent amount of sides here. Probably one of the cooler...
Also, we do have a Whataburger, and we just got a Guthrie's, too.
Oh, yeah, I'll have to show you.
And we also have a Chipotle. I see people listing everything off down here.
Yeah, but real quick, let me see if it's here. Yes, it's here, Culver's. This is something of a rarity here in the South. This restaurant actually originated in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin in the United States is known for cheese. It's the cheese state. Everything that comes out of Wisconsin, according to public opinion, is dairy or cheese related. And so everything at Culver's has cheese on it. A bacon deluxe with cheese. They also have these little concrete mixer things, which are really good. They have sides. These things are called cheese curds. They're literally fried cheese balls. Really weird, but they're pretty good, actually. They have all kinds of desserts. It's really like a shake and sundae place with a lot of cheesy food. You can see some real pictures of it here, like this disgustingly half-eaten burger with some onion rings. But really good food. I really like Culver's as a fast food place. Greasy, though. Greasy beyond belief. Not the healthiest food. None of this food's healthy for you. And also, Taco Bell. Taco Bell. I can't ever leave out Taco Bell. They're all over the city. And the Taco Bell is like some of my go-to fast food if I ever just need something quick. You know, it's not going to be like Gordon Ramsay levels of food, but this is kind of what you would find Americans eating. This is not Mexican food. This is Tex-Mex fast food, which is
not really.
Say what?
It's not even that really. It's Taco Bell. I just don't like Taco Bell at all. It seems like it's gone downhill.
I like it. Get out of here. Anyways, I hope that explains some of the fast food variety that we have here in the United States. One thing I will say, though, is that while we have a massive variety of fast food restaurants here that we eat for quick bites, the food quality is lower than what you'll find in the United Kingdom, even for fish and chips. Fish and chips over there is like a high-end meal here in the United States compared to fast food. Fast food is usually quickly made, very greasy, sometimes lacking in flavor. If you have a very, very palate, you'll find fast food somewhat be lacking in that area. But you can get a lot of variety, although it's not exactly the highest quality food. And so with that, I hope that explains a little bit of our fast food stuff here in the United States. And thank you so much once again for the support. And if you could share with us, share with me on a Discord DM, what fast food is like in Britain, like, beyond fish and chips. What else do y'all eat that's considered fast food? And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
Up next, big shout out to Chaotic, Roy Cortez, Natoya85, and also Callie J for putting in a $5 donation each. And thank all, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 of you. Gotta make sure I got that right. Don't want to screw the simple mathematics up. Quick maths. But anyways, thank you for the support, and we do appreciate it very much. And moving on to our next super chat, we have one from Chip Kerwan, who puts in a $5 donation. He says, will you repeat, double dip the chip?
Yes, you can't double dip the chip, Jerry. Jerry, you can't double dip the chip. I'm trying to get down my best George Costanza. How in the world, can you try and do his voice, Matthew?
No, like I'm it's probably so bad I'm not even going to try.
Jerry, you can't double dip the chip. Or whatever Kramer did. I can't do their voice as well. Like they had a very distinct sound.
Don't double dip the chip.
Who was that supposed to? Oh, was that supposed to be Trump?
Yeah.
Don't say his name. The double dipping of the chip is something that is bourgeois. We need to make sure that there's fundamental single dipping of the chip in this country. It is a basic fundamental right, and we need to make sure that it's nationwide. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have another $5 super chat from Chip Kerwan, who says, will there be enough Patriots for adequate coverage on and how to deploy, one per big city or one per region?
We're not really sure right now. We don't know how many Patriots are being sent over, although we did know that we were being sent over. And by the way, because I gotta say this, we got heat from viewers because someone said we were peddling mistruths a week and a half ago about saying that. And now they're saying that it's been in the making for a week and a half. We knew it. We had it here on the channel. We were reporting the news. And then for some reason, someone wanted to say we weren't being honest. That really bothered me a lot because we try and vet our news as best as we can. That's happened for a while. It just irks me because people always come over here and they're like, hey, so and so said that that's not true, and it's like, who in the world, who in the world they say that that's not true? They've done that 4 times now. They did that with Kherson. I was like, Russians are leaving Kherson. Here's evidence of them leaving Kherson. Here's abandoned military posts around Kherson City, and then they were on their stream saying that's wrong, that's not true. And then 2 weeks later, oh, look, now they're leaving Kherson. They've been doing this for weeks. It's like, what? Maybe, I don't know, because we don't try and have a beef with anyone, but maybe just not always try and sit there and cause a beef, maybe, that's something I've been thinking for a while, but maybe I'm out of touch with that. Anyways, getting back to that, we don't know how many will be sent over, and I think that it probably would just be 1 battery per city. 1 battery can only fire all 4 missiles at a time before it has to be reloaded, though, so I don't know if that's enough, but we may just see 1 battery per city, or we may see a wall of them set up here around the area of Kyiv, maybe some around Kharkiv as well, Dnipro, Zaporizhia, Mykolaiv, and they kind of create a massive shield over the eastern side of the country that largely protects everything further west and in Ukraine's interior. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you once again for an interesting question, Chip.
And yes, definitely interesting question. And up next, we have one from Bilbo Jenkins, who puts in a $5 donation and says, I can picture in my mind a world without war, a world without hate. And I can picture us attacking that world because they never expect it.
And I think I'm reading in between the lines here, and that's a pretty interesting comment right there. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that addresses the comment fairly well. And pretty much what you're saying is sleep with one eye open, Because we're coming, baby. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
Right. So up next, we have a $5 super chat from Cliff H, who says, "Are Iskander missiles too fast for Patriots to calculate an interception route? This may soon be moot if Russia runs them out, or runs out of them." Excuse me.
Reread that again for me real quick.
Excuse me. Are Iskander missiles too fast for Patriots to calculate an interception route? This may soon be moot if Russia runs out of them.
I don't think they are. I actually think I'm kind of misunderstanding that question even after a second read through. Are they asking that Russian missiles cannot plot a interception path for a Patriot?
Let's see. Are Patriots capable of hitting Iskander missiles?
Yes. In simple terms, they're able to hit any cruise and ballistic missiles whatsoever. They fly in straight lines at around 450 to 550 miles per hour. Very easy for a Patriot to shoot down. And so with that, I hope that answers the question, and we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
All right, and up next, we have a $5 super chat from Avari Mandubratis, who says, what AA guns, for some reason that didn't register in my head, I was thinking Alcoholics Anonymous, but anyways, what AA guns in U.S. inventory could be upgraded with sensors and computer controls for Ukraine? Could AA guns be aimed using Patriot targeting radar?
I mean, the only thing I can think of that could, AA gun-wise, that the Americans ever really had in numbers was this little thing right here, which is an M113 with a 20mm Vulcan on top of it. That's about the...
I like that.
It's pretty cool, actually. I like it. It's very compact as well, but that's about the best we have, and it's not really an interlink system. It's more of a standalone system, and it's really, honestly, kind of a little questionable with its performance, but... it could fill gaps, potentially, as far as air defense, especially against small things like drones, and also the supposed and potential Antonov 2s that could be used to try and weaken Ukraine's air defense. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question fairly well, and thank you so much once again for the support, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Cliff H, who puts in a $5 donation once again and says, "I'm behind on the stream, but FYI, December 12th, Russian losses included 24 tanks."
And thank you for the support, and also thank you for clarifying that. I believe that Roy actually clarified that as well a little bit earlier, and apparently we didn't get a good look at the casualty report from yesterday to show that, and if so, I wonder where they lost those in such a large number, considering they're keeping them almost out of sight from what we can tell. But with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, and with that, we are on to the next one.
Right, and for our final 4 super chats, we have one from Dupper Bob, Oregon Squatcher, Marc-Andre Brunette, and Dubsy Dabster. They each put in a $2 donation and say, "Hello, LSA. I support you guys' efforts, and thank you."
And thank you so much. And we hear the LSA, and we support y'all 100%. We're always going to be here for y'all, and I got to thank y'all so much for the support and helping us to keep this thing running. Also, do we have any super chats left?
That is it.
All right, and so real quick, to pioneer our way into the live chat segment, Eric S. said, "Look at the ADATs. Poor brother, I will, the ADATs. You, my friend, must play a lot of War Thunder like I do, because this thing is in War Thunder, and it's an incredibly interesting system there. Unfortunately, in real life, not a lot of these were made. Only about 3 to 4 of them ever made it into a prototype phase, and then they were phased out almost immediately afterwards. They were actually, it was really just more of the turret system that was tested and then phased out, and it was put on 2 separate platforms. One of them was the M3 Bradley's hull. Really cool looking system when you see it from here. I was like, oh man, that is cool. Look at that picture right there. Like, that thing looks like
pretty cool.
That thing looks like a tank destroying monster, and actually the missiles that they made for this thing were multi-purpose. It could be used as an anti-tank missile or an anti-air missile, which was just groundbreaking, revolutionary. I don't know why we haven't done anything like that since. And then they also put this ADATS turret onto an M113, and you can see one of these on display in Canada right there. But once again, a prototype, and they don't actually use these or field these in large numbers. They're so cool, though. And I wish we did do that, but the U.S. doctrine just doesn't really revolve around small surface-to-air missile defense systems like these. They rely on the Air Force to do that job instead. And so we never got to see these cool little systems go into mass production in large numbers. In total, I believe there's only about 6 of these that exist, about 3 of them on the Bradley, 3 of them on the M113, and then beyond that, they're just nowhere to be seen. But they're still really cool, and I wish that we had actually made these in numbers. Think about how invincible the United States would have been if you had double redundancy right there. The U.S. intercepting and shooting down cruise missiles and such things, and then these little things cleaning up the scraps that remain, although nothing really would remain beyond the Air Force. But with that, I hope that answers the question, Roy. And also, if you do play War Thunder, I also play War Thunder, and did you see that they're adding the F-16? That was a really cool trailer, really neat. Not to share my game thing much because, you know, some people will take that out of context and, you know, whatever. And, you know, I don't want to read that in the comment section sometimes. But anyways, it's a fun game. I like it. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. So, real quick, also, Marc-Andre Brunette put in another $2 Canadian donation. Thank you, Mark.
Kissing
and
lemon.
Also, kissing lemon. What do you mean?
It's the little emoji thing that's got on it. It's a
Oh.
kissing lemon.
Oh, I see it now. That's nice. Also, Mark, I think, puts in a $2 donation every single night for the past, I think, couple of months, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, he has. I mean, why hasn't he? I mean, like, he's a legend. I mean, why?
Mark is a staple of the channel.
Wait. Hey, I gotta build up to the collapse here. What happened? I was working up to that the whole time. I don't even know why I'm here. I don't even know what I'm doing. Anyways, we're on to the next one.
All right, so moving to our live chat questions. Up first, of course, we have to address the Morse code. Tonight we have BME, Mark Hodges, CFA, WFTU, and guess who? Guess who's back? Ashley.
Yo!
Who says, Enforcer Matt, the Morse code says, the Patriots will change course of the war because they are patriots. Insert Mel Gibson noises.
Did y'all get the joke? I hope
what?
I hope y'all got the joke. You know, the movie Patriot with Mel Gibson in it. And then he got pulled over for drunk driving and said a whole bunch of stuff that would cancel his career. That part's a sideshow. But moving on from that, yes, the Patriots will change the game, especially in terms of Ukraine's air defense. And as long as the Antonov 2s aren't actually taken as proper targets and shot at by these Patriots where they expend most of their missiles, they will change the face of this war forever. The Ukrainians will have a shield over their country that will probably never be broken, unless if the Russians put in massive efforts to just try and get rid of one battery. So, with that, also I'm getting a lot of LOLs. I'm glad y'all caught on to that joke. They may never take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom to produce the most historically inaccurate movies that anyone has ever seen. But anyways, moving on, I gotta be honest with y'all. Mel Gibson, yeah, his movies were kind of neat, like they were fun to watch, but from a historical perspective, they were the most inaccurate things ever. Like, never seen that much. Well, actually, I have seen that much historical inaccuracy before, like the movie Fury, but never before, like in that time in history, had the historical inaccuracy been that bad. And in the middle of Saving Private Ryan being made too, which is a cult classic. You know, everyone knows Saving Private Ryan. Not incredibly accurate, but still much more accurate than the Patriot or the other one. What was the other one? The Scottish one. I forgot the name of it. Anyways, we are on to the next one. And I thank y'all so much for decoding the Morse code every single night. And welcome back, Ashley. We've been wondering where you've been, and we hope you've been all right. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so up next, we have another $2 Canadian super chat from Marc-Andre Brunette. He puts in a little picture of the coming soon icon. I'm not sure what's coming soon, but I'll take his word for it. Thank you, Mark, once again.
Right now, there's an Iskander flying over the Atlantic right towards her house coming soon.
Yes.
Well, I think
that would be something.
Oh, that would be something. Hey, what's that out the window? Anyways, I thank you so much for the support, Marc-Andre Brunette. And that is the second $2 donation that you sent in tonight. And I got to thank you so much for that as well. Also, everyone just finally clarified me. It's Braveheart. It's Braveheart that I'm thinking about. The Scottish one. Also, in case y'all are wondering, no, he didn't get his testicles cut off. He got drawn and quartered in the middle of a town square. He got killed as a commoner. Because only nobles got executed the way he did in the movie. Well, hell, I mean, that's not true either. I mean, they don't get the nuts cut off, they get beheaded. Anyways, they took him to the town. They took him to a square in London, and they cut him, in modern terms, at the nips, and then they cut down to his belly button in a triangle. They just pulled the skin up, ripped his guts out in the middle of the street, and he died. Then they cut up his they cut up his body into pieces, and they took it to the far bridges and gates of the town and put him up on pikes, so that way rebels of the crown could know what would happen to them. So the ending of the movie wasn't true. A lot of what happened in the movie wasn't true at all either. But, you know, it's still an interesting film. It's a fun film to watch, don't get me wrong, but don't ever take that as historical fact. A lot of inaccuracies in it. Honestly, a film I was really surprised with was that one with Tom Hanks in it. I watched this a while ago. It was the one with Tom Hanks in it and the girl, I think, the little girl, and he was a newspaper man carrying news from around the world to faraway lands, pretty much, and reading it to people. And what I found really interesting is that he was in Texas at the beginning of the film, and they actually got it right. At the time he was there, it was in the middle of Civil War era Reconstruction, and so there was no state government. Everything was divided up into military districts, and so he actually had to show travel papers to show that he was permitted by the military governors of these districts to travel, which was a great point of historical accuracy that they got in that film. I thought it really showed the Reconstruction South fairly well, actually, as far as the governance and administration went. But that's a small side point in the movie. That doesn't really play much into it. But still, I found that to be a very cool little historical tidbit that they threw in. Anyways, getting past that rabbit hole, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to CME4PC, who says, have you heard anything about Twitter shutting down new accounts set up for Ukrainians? Several reports on Ukraine existing Twitter accounts suggest this is the case.
I have not heard about that yet, but I'll have to try and look into that a little bit more. But unfortunately, right now, I'd have to declare ignorance on it because I'm not really sure if that's happening or not, and I don't have a lot of information to work off of. So with that, I hope that addresses the question to the best of our abilities right now, but I will make sure to try and get an answer on that. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Magic Sky Girl, who says, Enforcer, Russia is getting closer to Bakhmut. Is it going to hold?
Bakhmut will hold because the Ukrainians hold the major ridges to the rear of the town and also the chicken tender as well. For the most part, they still control half of it. And as long as they control those major heights around the town, they most likely will control the town itself. And even if the Russians do take the town, a Ukrainian counterattack, all it has to do is just roll off the hill and down into the town, and they can probably sweep the Russians back out. So yes, they will hold on to the town. Even if they do manage to take most of it, they can, of course, counterattack from advantageous position and probably push them back out. Also, they'll be able to constantly see where they are in the town because they have the high ground. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we're going to answer the next one. I said that because I was getting ready to say the last one of the night, but it's not really time for that. So with that, on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Madeline Suzette, who says, excuse me, when is the Patriot actually going to arrive in Ukraine?
We don't really know for certain, but usually whenever these things are finalized, you can expect it to be there within 2 weeks to a month. So, not really sure. And also considering that Patriots are probably being deployed by the U.S. right now in Germany, they could just be driven from Germany to Poland and then handed over to Ukraine on the border. So it may even be faster than that. We're not really sure. It just depends on where they're coming from and where they consign them to be sent to. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
Next question goes to Andrew, who says, should Putin's palace be targeted on Christmas Day? Merry Christmas.
Oh, you get cold, little man. But anyways, I would say no. I don't think the Kremlin should be attacked. A part of me wants to preserve the historical nature of the Kremlin. The other part knows what would probably happen in reprisals for the Kremlin being attacked. So I would say most likely not. Also, I would hate to see more historical things get destroyed. Like, for example, what if the missile somehow misses the Kremlin? You know, for some reason it has a guidance computer problem and it hits St. Basil's Cathedral and destroys it. You know, and you know, while Russia's not really in vogue right now, it's terrible to think that we would end up destroying historical monuments, historical buildings, in the middle of a war, because once you destroy them, you can never get them back. You can rebuild them, but they're not the same. They're not the original that was there. Kind of like buildings in London that were bombed out by the Germans in the Blitz. and we'll never see them again. Now that just little modern-esque 1950s buildings exist in the place where those once did. So I would say no. I think one thing though, I will say this as a bit of like a rendition of it. I would say that targets around Moscow should be hit excessively near Christmas, just to freak them out. But I don't think we should hit the Kremlin. Not just for the historical value of the building, but also because of what the Russians may do as a result of that and be able to get away with it. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
Viewer is David Myers, a very good viewer, been around for a very long
He's
time.
a great guy.
David says, did you hear that China is going to support Russia now because NATO stopped their land purchase and Ukraine kept billions of the dollars?
I've not heard of China joining Russia in any kind of support. Let's pull it up real quick and let's take a look. We always like China. It looks like the Indians and the Chinese are busting each other's heads out. Kind of typical, kind of normal. But anyways, I can't see anything about China giving up their unsupport for Russia and making sure to support Russia. I feel like that would be a total covfefe. I don't feel like that would be genius at all. But let's take China supporting Russia. Putin, more particular. Why is China? I can't find any news saying that China supports Russia. Of course, I don't think they would. That would be a terrible idea from terrible, terrible people. I don't think that would be great. They spend billions and billions of dollars making sure that they don't get involved in this war. I don't think it would be a good idea for them to sit there and get involved now. So I don't think that's happened yet. Of course, their ratings are dropping, so they might get involved soon. But I don't see that right now. So I hope that answers the question fairly well. I almost flipped over into another voice right there, which I have not done on stream. I don't know if I can. The vaccine's been very effective, but we're not going to go into that voice.
No, don't do that one. YouTube will come down hard on us.
We're not going to do that one. YouTube's got a giant whack-a-mole hammer. YouTube has got a giant whack-a-mole. I can't even do his voice now. I've cracked up too much. Oh no. I'm actually thinking about what may happen because of that one. That was the only thing I could say. But anyways, it appears that China is not supporting Russia right now. So we're going to have to look at that a little bit more. And it looks like some people are actually getting a laugh out of that voice I did in the middle. But anyways, I don't see that yet. I don't think they're supporting them right now. And I don't think they will, because it's not really in China's interest to support them. It's better for them to be weakened, considering that they're their only rival in the eastern region of Asia. And so with that, I hope that it's just a question fairly well. It looks like a lot of people got a good laugh out of that one, Matthew, surprisingly. And apparently it was able to be picked up as that guy. Did y'all actually notice that it was that guy? Like we can't even say his name because I don't know if YouTube will actually kill us.
Don't say it.
Yeah, but did that sound like him? Like, I'm interested now. Anyways, that was our final question of the night. That was wait a minute, someone just said, was that the other guy that we also can't mention?
No.
Well, I can't say it was that guy, but the liberal media, they're lying to you. But anyways, we never done that one on stream either. Mostly because of fear of what may happen. But anyways, we just did it, MJM. I know that the stream has a little bit of delay, but we just did it, and I hope y'all liked it. Oh wow, everyone's asking for all kinds of stuff now, and it's time for us to round this thing out. But oh man, now MJM is doubling down. He's doubling down. Wait, I gotta see. We gotta see, Matthew. Did people pick up on that one? They're turning the freaking frogs gay. But anyways, we are going to tonight.
I was about to do Bluto or Brutus.
What's the big idea here?
They're turning the freaking frogs gay.
Sitting there and they're controlling you with the fluoride in the water. They're going to sit there and they're going to turn you all into freaks.
weirdos, the liberal media, they blah, 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 you know. Anyways, y'all know, like all the funny crap that goes. Honestly, one thing I was thinking, Matthew, is an idea. Oh, well, I can't even throw that out as an idea because that kind of, yeah. Anyways, it is time for us to round out tonight's stream. A lot of y'all having fun with that. Maybe we'll do some more in the future. But thank you all so much once again for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure to answer all of y'all's questions tonight in this question segment. I hope y'all enjoyed the news segment as well. If y'all did enjoy all of it, and y'all are still here and it's your first time watching, make sure to subscribe. We highly enjoy knowing that more people are joining the Lee Spring Army. And also, it's wonderful to know that y'all enjoy this news as well. It's been an absolute honor once again to report this news and that y'all find this to be the go-to reliable source for news on the internet. I'm completely honored by that, completely flabbergasted. Sometimes feel like we are not deserving of the honor, but yet y'all still give it to us. And so, thank you all once again. And I will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the war in Ukraine. Good night, everyone. Take care and stay safe. And also, good luck. Yeehaw! Yeehaw!
Yes. The Lee Spring Army sends its regards.
Ще не вмерла України ні слава, ні воля. Ще нам, браття українці, усміхнеться доля. Згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці. Запануємо ми, браття, у своїй сторонці. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького